This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, welcome to another edition Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Hustler enjoying the President's Cup in Montreal. Michael Remis hosting for another day. So pumped to be here. Again, lot to get to. Jets playing tonight in Minnesota. Bombers as well, hosting Edmonton. NFL Week 4. Started it up. And, looking forward to another great weekend. Some fantastic weather. Should be a beautiful night at Princess Auto Stadium. So looking forward to the show. Connor Hrabchak, he's coming up in a second. Got some great guests. Ed Tait is going to bring his tremendous insight on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Scott Billeck on the Jets. And it's not a Friday without the marble race, of course, but without Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, NFL Notebook. I might touch on some other topics with him as well, but mainly NFL. Week 4 kicking off. Cowboys, Giants last night. Pretty boring one. But again, a lot of topics here. And we did have some big news to touch on. Connor Hrabchak will join me in a second. We're going to play some clips from Mason Appleton on this topic. But the Winnipeg Jets announcing this morning that Bryan Little will sign a one-day contract with the team to officially retire from the NHL as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. October 20, Sunday afternoon, was all highlighted from Rutger Majority's potential return to Winnipeg, although that's not really set in stone. But they will be honoring Bryan Little. He was drafted 12th overall by the Thrashers in 2006, and in franchise history, top 5 in games played, goals, assists, points. General manager Kevin Cheveldayoff saying in a press release, Bryan Little is a crucial part of the history of this franchise and was a key contributor to the Winnipeg Jets throughout his time in the NHL. He was a humble, hardworking player that cared about his teammates and was a quiet but important leader in the dressing room. So Jets will be honoring him, and that's something we thought would happen. We'll get into more of that in a second with Connor. But first, wouldn't be here without our great sponsors. Thank you so much, Consolidated Supply, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the Winnipeg Jets, and shout out from the Winnipeg Jets giving us a link in the description. If you want home opener tickets, they have given us a special offer for that. Just want to mention that there. Cool bet. We're going to go over the lines. And if you haven't, CFL kicks off tonight, the new week. Bombers hosting Elks as game 1. Still time to listen to CFL 110, presented by Garage Living Winnipeg. Hustler and Jeff Hamilton going through all the top stories as it's week 17. Counting down until we're close to the playoffs, and the Bombers can punch a ticket to those playoffs with a win tonight over Edmonton. All right, it is time to bring in, looking great here on a Friday, Connor Hrabchak. Connor, what's going on? How was missed you yesterday? I'll say missed you yesterday. Welcome back.
Yeah, it was. You missed me yesterday. I unfortunately have class Thursdays right when the show is on, but I watched it later. You did a great job again, and I'm excited to be on today. Lots to talk about. Jets game tonight, Bomber game tonight. Bryan Little being retired as a Jet, and the Bombers can clinch a playoff spot. So we have a lot to talk to here. I'm excited.
Yeah, we do have the Jets Wild tonight. I have the lines ready. We're gonna get into those. I guess the show ended with the injury updates. Logan Stanley Arneil saying yesterday he was longer than day today, and today coming out that he had surgery on his meniscus. Tweaked something during his pregame off-ice warm-up routine. Should be out a minimum 4 weeks. So now Ville Heinola out with an injury. Logan Stanley, the Jets defense, taking a bit of a hit here.
Yeah, and you lose Brendan Dillon in the offseason. You buy out Nate Schmidt's contract. And the thought process is that Ville Heinola is going to step in on that third pair. That doesn't happen. Okay, who's the next guy up? Logan Stanley. Now he's out a month as well. So now it's Hayden Fleury. It's just next man up. We're not even into regular season games yet, and the Jets are already down to, what would that be, their 8th defenseman. Hayden Fleury skated with Colin Miller this morning, I believe. I believe he's a part of tonight's lineup, so you'll see that pairing tonight. And then Dylan Coughlin also is in that mix for maybe that 7th defense, 6th defense spot with both of these guys out. But yeah, the Jets, like if there was one weakness that you would label them to have going into the season, it was probably depth on the blue line. And that's already being tested early on. And we're not even into regular season action yet.
Yeah, so minimum 4 weeks for Stanley. And it was announced at the end of the show yesterday, Scott Arneil saying Ville Heinola had another surgery, this one to remove the pin in his ankle. I think Arneil thought it would be minimum 4 weeks, but he's like, I'm not a doctor. I can't say. So not expecting those guys anytime soon. Hayden Fleury stepping up. Dylan Coughlin, will we see him? And Elias Salmonson. I was going to get to Bryan Little, but let's just get to the lines for tonight. There were a lot of people say, Brad Lambert had the great game against Edmonton on Wednesday. Skated in the B group yesterday. There was some ears perked up. How could you put him in the B group after such a great game? But we do have the lines. The Jets going into Minnesota tonight. Here they are. Perfetti, Lambert, Iafallo, Barron, Yeager, Chibrikov, Barlow, Kupari, Appleton, Shaw, Toninato, Axley, Onsen, Fjallby, Sandberg, Pionk, Fleury, Miller, Salamonson, Coughlin, Hellebuck, and Milic. I think are going to be the goalies. DiVincentis skated as well in that group. Lundmark Bauer was the extra D pair. What stands out to you from today's lines? And a lot of the veterans who played in Wednesday's game not going to Minnesota.
Yeah, well, I'll reiterate the Fleury-Miller pairing now that that's probably going to be the opening night third pair. I'm interested to see. They did play a game together, that first game against Minnesota at home. But I'm interested to see how that looks again now that we know this information, that both the depth defensemen are probably going to be out for a month or longer. And then I mentioned on the game against Edmonton how I wanted to see how Lambert and Ehlers gelled together. Same goes for him with Perfetti. That second line, if Lambert is going to win that role, it'll probably be alongside Perfetti and Ehlers. We saw one side of it. Lambert had a great game, a goal and an assist. The goal came on the power play. And is there chemistry there with Perfetti and Lambert? Perfetti obviously can use his vision, passing. Lambert use his speed and playmaking. There might be something there. And then I'm excited to watch Brayden Yager again. I've been really, really pleasantly surprised with how he's played at camp. And in the first preseason game last weekend against Minnesota. So seeing another game of him, I'm really excited for that. Even though he's probably unlikely to make the team this year, still seeing these young players in preseason action is always fun. And then seeing Barlow, Kupari, Appleton. Barlow is going to go back to junior this year. Kupari and Appleton, both bottom 6 depth players. And then the back end, Sandberg, Pionk as well. And Connor Hellebuck getting his first full start. But most importantly for me, the Fleury-Miller pairing and the Lambert-Perfetti connection.
Yeah, Cole Perfetti spent so much time talking about him over the last couple of weeks, finally signing that contract, or the Jets and Perfetti agreeing to terms. And we'll see him in the lineup and looking forward to seeing how he plays in the first game. Not expecting a ton here compared to how much we've talked about him, but you got to get in, get your feet wet. And that is going to be a story throughout training camp. What is that second line going to look like? Will it include, be Nemestikov, Perfetti, Ehlers, is Brad Lambert move himself into the conversation? We'll see how he does. We've seen the Jets lines, and how about Minnesota? Michael Russo of The Athletic tweeting those out. A little more veteran lineup than what we saw from Edmonton the other day, who do not have any of their big guns. Minnesota, they're going to have Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello, Joel Eriksson-Ek is in there as well. Brock Faber in there with Middleton. So they got a number of NHLers. I think the bottom 6 more more depth players, but they got their big guns out there. And I did see some Minnesota fans. Oh, here's the first reply. Stanley injured, so he cannot accidentally hurt Kaprizov tonight as I scroll down. So Minnesota Wild fans, don't forget, no bad blood. I was wondering if Hartman and Perfetti have gone head to head since the slash last year, but maybe that was last year. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Always interesting when the Jets and the Wild face off.
Yeah, last year I remember that there was the whole Adam Lowry thing at the end of the game, the Nikolai Ehlers hit that knocked him out, and then carrying into the next year, we all thought, oh, is there going to be some bad blood? Are they going to fight? And with the Jets and the Wild, there's always something new. There's always some new controversy, a new dirty hit, a new dirty play, a new player that always injures Kirill Kaprizov. So it's always something happens, but it's preseason. So I think players are just going to want to get through this game healthy, but you never know between the Jets and the Wild, things can escalate very, very quickly, as we've seen in past meetings.
Yeah. Past meetings. How about past meetings on September 27th, today's date? It was on this date in 2015, right, where Paul Maurice was not happy with the way the Wild conducted themselves in a preseason game. The Jets sent a pretty young roster to Minnesota. Minnesota played a lot of their top guys. They had an 8-1 lead in the third period, and Minnesota is sending out their top power play. One of my favorite Paul Maurice. I mean, I have it up here. I'm just going to play one of my favorite Paul Maurice clips, saying that it was an honor to be in the building. It's preseason. I think about this quote every year when you see a team of young players matched up against a team of established stars, which we kind of saw on Wednesday. But here's a little callback to Paul Maurice. Why? It's because it's preseason.
You never get an option in this league, so you get into those games, and they're going to keep putting out good players. Like when they got an 8-1 lead, they got a power play. The best is coming out in an exhibition game.
So your initial comment, I take that you have some frustration with your opponents and how they conducted themselves?
No. I thought it was just an honor to be in the same building with them tonight. You never get an option in this league. So.
All right, I love that. An honor to be in the building tonight. I think it's a one-day year. Maybe I could play this clip. We moved on. He's no longer the coach of the Jets. He's the Stanley Cup champion coach of the Panthers. But Jets Wild, I always do think about that. We'll see what happens tonight. And we did have some other Jets news this morning. Connor, the Jets announcing they will be celebrating Bryan Little on October 20. I think this was something that you kind of saw coming with his contract finally expiring. They did trade his contract to Arizona, now Utah, but they did announce today. So what was your initial reaction when you saw the news? Hey, they're going to be honoring Bryan Little October 20 at the 2 p.m. game against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, like you said, I think this was just a matter of when, not if they were going to do this. I mean, Bryan Little's such a integral part of what the Winnipeg Jets were when they first moved here, such a big part of the community, such a beloved player among the fan base. I know a lot of people, like, he was a part of that team that came over in 2011, so he has a lot of people's first jerseys, mine included. And he was just a loved player from that point till the time when he unfortunately had his career cut short because of the incident that we are all aware of. But this is so awesome. And I'm glad that they're doing it early in the season as well. Drum up some hype for one of these early season games. And like I said, this was bound to happen, but good on the Jets organization for doing it as quickly as possible because of how much Bryan Little means and meant to this organization.
Yeah, Bryan Little forced to call a career, cut it short after taking a slap shot puck to the head. Unfortunate, he's moved on in his post-career, taken up triathlon, which he's competing, and we hadn't really heard from him. But what a night that will be. I looked at the promo schedule before the season. I said, you don't really have a Jets. No one's going to the Jets Hall of Fame this year. They've had nights in the past where you honor previous Jets, mostly of the 1.0 era, Newman and Solani, the most recent one, but I think this is certainly fitting. Something, we had talked about on this show with his contract coming up. Will they do something to honor him? He will be signing a one-day contract and retiring as a Jet. I don't know if you have a favorite Bryan Little memory. I think there's a couple that stand out. The one for me was scoring the first hat trick in Jets 2.0 history. I mean, it had gone years without a hat trick, and it was Bryan Little. And again, he was a quiet leader, very consistent player. You knew what you were going to get out of him, and a very good Winnipeg Jet. And it was very unfortunate the way his career ended.
Yeah, I posted two of my favorite Bryan Little memories today. One was the playoff goal he scored against Anaheim to put the Jets up 4-3 in Game 3 of the first whiteout back, first playoff series. He scored like a massive goal and the place went nuts. That was awesome. But I think my favorite moment, because I was in the building for it, was his overtime winner in the Heritage Classic against the Calgary Flames in Regina. I remember being at that game. I remember my toes absolutely freezing. It was so cold. And the Jets, I don't know if people remember that game, but they got shut out in the Oilers game, the outdoor game. And then that one against Calgary, it was 1-0 Calgary till about 5 minutes left. So I was like, oh my goodness, the Jets are never going to score in an outdoor game. Then they scored on the power play, went to overtime. Bryan Little got the game winner. That's just a fond memory I have. And one of my favorite Bryan Little memories is being at that stadium and just freezing and sticking it through to the overtime when the Jets won it.
So yeah, Bryan Little, 561 games with the Winnipeg Jets and 370 points. Staple. Do wonder if they'll bring out any special guests. You know, Blake, saw people speculating in our Discord or just wondering. Blake Wheeler does not have a contract right now. Imagine if him and Andrew Ladd, who has retired, showing up with that line on Bryan Little. They did have Dustin Byfuglien make an appearance during the Wheeler 1000th game on the Jumbotron to a big pop. It seems like the Jets just came here, but no, it's 2011. That was a while ago now. It's 2024 here. So Bryan Little, we've entered the phase where Jets 2.0 players are being honored. Shows how far that we've come. We'll talk about some clips here. Scott Arneil spoke to the media and talked about Logan Stanley. Here's the injury update on Logan Stanley.
Just an update on Logan Stanley. He's having surgery today. He'll be out on his knee, so it's minimum 4 weeks. So tough news on him. We'll just he goes in the shelf there with Philly. So.
Yeah, is that another guy too? We asked you this last week, Scott, about kind of having a fatherly chat with Billy for all that he's been through, and it's a somewhat similar story for Logan, whether it's been injuries or having to be patient.
Yeah, 2 years ago when I first came here, he broke his ankle and on a shot, and then came back. I think it was the first game back against Chicago. He broke it again, and so he never ever got to really get going with the new coaching staff. And then last year, obviously, a little bit had more to do with numbers, but played lots for us at the end of the year when we had some injuries. And he was so excited about this year, about getting in, and he was pretty much going to be one of the fixtures in our group. So, and he also has that that size and physicality that that we also needed. And so it's a big hit for us, and I just hope that he gets recovered and gets himself back as soon as possible.
Not even out of training camp, and Jets down 2 defensemen after being pretty healthy for all of last season. Ville Heinola came back. He couldn't even get in. No one really got hurt, but down 2. We're going to see some of that depth. Hayden Fleury, Dylan Coghlan, Elias Almonson. Could we see him? Here's Scott Arneil. More details on the injury to Logan Stanley.
It's a meniscus. I've had 3 meniscus surgeries myself. It's one of those things that it's just something that happens. He was doing some warm-up movement, and it just tweaked. And after that, I'm not going to be the medical doctor here, but he felt it, and went and obviously our docs looked at it, and then that was the decision today.
So there you go, Logan Stanley out 4 weeks. So we'll see what happens. Jets in Wild tonight in Minnesota. And, there are a number of players on the roster. We're expecting some changes as we get closer to the end of the preseason. It's going to start looking more like it will, day one. We still have some young players in there. Colby Barlow, Braden Yeager. We think those guys will likely get sent down to junior at some point. Here's Scott Arneil talking about the timeline for an upcoming roster reduction.
We'll reduce numbers, whether it's tomorrow or Sunday. We'll probably get to a little bit more workable group for our Sunday practice. Like I mentioned, our big guys got to get their reps here, and obviously we have competition. We got battles that are going on, and those guys need to get into those things. It's not just, I know the exhibition games are situations where you get to see them in live play, but it's also, for me, it's the coaches to watch guys in practice when they get into battle drills or stick detail, when they get into rush chances, opportunities, how they handle those situations, or forward defense. We're watching not just the games, we're watching a lot what's happening in practice too, so where the guys are picking stuff up.
And so we'll expect to see some roster reduction this weekend, before Sunday. And, with the two defensemen injured, it's going to be talking a lot more about guys acquired this summer. Hayden Fleury, Elias Salomonsson coming over from Europe. Simon Lundmark got in as the last-minute replacement, Dylan Coghlan. Here's Scott Arneil talking about the job Cheveldayoff has done to bring in some more of this depth to help the Jets out when they have some injuries here.
Well, the biggest thing, and I mentioned it before, is that, last 3 years, the free agency, I've sat in that room, and it's trying to get guys to come to Winnipeg. It's a tough sell, and at the end of the day, the biggest thing we talked about was our depth, and we've done a fantastic job, I think, in all levels. From our goaltending, we got 5 guys that depth here. Our defense, exactly how we're in this position right now with the injuries, and then up front we got some battles. We had some young guys situation, and in Lambeau and Chipperkoff being able to maybe be those options with the top 6, and then we got the bottom battle going on with our bottom 6. So when that's all you ask as a coach, is that if you have NHL players able and ready to go when you have these type of situations, that's what they did, getting us having that depth in the summer.
We're close here, figuring out what the Jets roster is going to look like for opening night. Connor, if you had to handicap some of the Jets, pairings that are up for grabs here, I mean, if you had to make some cool bet odds, what are you putting for, what's the big one? You're looking for line 2 here. I would say Nemestikov, Perfetti, Ehlers the favorite to start opening night. And Fleury, Miller the favorite, but I guess you still have that extra defenseman, extra forward. I think fourth line as well, some question marks there.
Yeah, the fourth line is really interesting because we spend so much time talking and analyzing that second line center spot and the defense pairings and how Neil Pionk looked on Wednesday night with the 4-point night, things like that. But the fourth line, there's a good battle going on there. Anderson Dolan has gotten a lot of time alongside Adam Lowry in the preseason, which I don't think is for nothing. I'm not saying he's going to take over Mason Appleton's spot, but maybe the coaching staff is like what they've seen enough to maybe play him on the fourth line or be an extra forward. But I will say, I think Vladislav Nemestikov should be the favorite to be the 2C. Brad Lambert has looked really good in preseason, and I don't think Nemestikov starting the season as a second line center means that Brad Lambert is going to spend the entire year in the AHL. We might be looking at a Kyle Connor situation here where they send him down to start and then he comes up within the first week of an injury, or the first potential opportunity he comes up, or the Jets struggle out of the gate, so they need a spark, so they bring him up. I don't think whether or not he's in the lineup opening night as the 2C will really dictate what we see maybe at Christmas time or into the new year. So I know that's tough to say because Brad Lambert has been very, very exciting in preseason. But I would just exercise caution on, he's not the opening night 2C. Oh, the season's over. He's in the AHL. No, I think we do see Brad Lambert this season, and he's proven in the preseason games that he's earned maybe an opportunity to show his skills at the NHL level at some point this season. And then for the third pairing, I think Ville Heinola had the inside track, then Logan Stanley. Now I'd say it's Hayden Fleury. Dylan Coghlan, again, I asked Jacob Stoller this and Les Hood on WST Sunday Live if they thought handedness mattered when it came to that third pairing spot. Like, Hayden Fleury's a lefty, Dylan Coghlan is a righty. Does the coaching staff maybe go 2 righties on the third pair with Miller and Coghlan? I don't see it, so I think Hayden Fleury will be the guy there. And I do think it'll be Nemestikov as the 2C. And again, that doesn't mean we won't see Brad Lambert this season, early this season, in the middle of this season, but I think that's the way that things are tracking. Yeah,
Elias Salomonsson, also a right shot. He is listed on the left side. And here, I'll play this one from Arneil. Arneil did mention about having Elias playing the left side. And he's a guy, we thought maybe he had a couple players to jump before he got in, but with the 2 injuries, that much closer. But he's going to start the season with the Manitoba Moose, most likely. Here is Arneil and Elias Salomonsson playing the left side today.
You know what? He's actually talked about it, playing it in Europe there. He's played there. They both said they can play there. Just it's more about just kind of, see how it goes. And kind of the other night we threw Lundy over there and he played left side, looked real good. So we'll just, kind of put him, get him out there again, make sure that everything's, they're feeling comfortable there. And right now we've got which is a rarity, got a little bit more abundance of right shots. So we'll just play it as it is.
It as is, as you said, handedness certainly does matter when making D pairs. We spent some time talking about Bryan Little. The Jets will be honoring him the afternoon of the game versus Pittsburgh, October 20, celebrating his career. Here's Mason Appleton, former teammate, talked about playing with Bryan Little.
Litz obviously is a great guy. First and foremost, I think, when you think about a true pro, I think Litz kind of exemplified that in every single aspect. He was a guy who worked extremely hard every single day, never too high, never too low, just went about his business, just a blue-collar worker. And he kind of carried that same mindset off the ice. He was kind of, obviously he was a funny dude, but he was, just a straight shooter, honest guy, and obviously very unfortunate end to his career, but there's a lot of life after hockey, and I'm sure he's now enjoying that, and it's a whole new chapter for him. So to have him back here in this building, everyone's going to be really excited to see him, and, the fans will obviously, be excited to see him as well because it's been a while. But it'll be a great night for him and his family, and he's definitely earned the right to, retire as a Jet in front of everyone.
Nice to hear from Mason Appleton there. One more clip just on the quiet presence that Bryan Little had in the locker room.
Litz was just that silent leader that everybody, you made note of how he worked. He wasn't a guy that would, come over and be like, I want you to do this and that. He was just kind of a guy who led the way by, his play and his example on the ice and off the ice. So he's one of those guys you just kind of quietly pay attention to and how he acts every single day. And that's the reason for, the career he had. And that's the type of leader he was. So for me, coming in, being young at that point, he was just a guy that I, try to pay attention to every single day and just soak up what made him successful.
There is Mason Appleton, and he'll be in the lineup tonight when the Jets take on the Wild. We haven't really touched on here the upcoming Bomber game tonight. Oh, put the wrong thing on here. The Bomber game tonight.
Us is back.
Just thoughts on the Bombers coming in on a 6-game win streak against Edmonton, and then we'll bring in Ed Tait.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this game tonight. The chance to clinch a playoff spot, going up against Edmonton, who, before last week was the other hottest team in the West. So how much of last week was a fluke? They're starting a new quarterback tonight. And it's a sellout, sold out days ago, and it's supposed to be a gorgeous night. So I'm super excited to be at the stadium tonight and hopefully watch the Bombers clinch a playoff spot.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. They could be the first team in the West to clinch after starting 0-4. What a wild season, and what they call the crazy football league. I've heard that one before. We'll bring in Ed Tait, more on the Bombers, but first, here's Huss.
But as I said, if you missed it yesterday, normally we do CFL 110 on Wednesdays. We did it early this year, folks. We did it for our friends at Garage Living Winnipeg on Monday because Jeff Hamilton is away and I am going to be away tomorrow. So check that out wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can search CFL 110 and it's up right now on the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube channel. A big thanks to Garage Living Winnipeg for their support. Guys, we're into fall and the push is on. If you want to have a clean, organized garage this fall before the snow flies, give Garage Living Winnipeg a call at 999-1234. Pat's been getting lots of calls. As soon as back to school hit, people are suddenly seeing all the bikes, hockey, and football equipment, you name it, strewn all over the garage. Garage Living has an innovative solution called Slatwall. Dozens of hooks, baskets, and shelves that clip into it to get everything off your floor. There's even a cool golf club caddy and tire racks to store those winter tires. And the cool thing is you can do as much or as little of it as you want to fit in within your budget. This is your chance to clear the clutter, organize and beautify your garage with slat wall, as well as beautiful polyaspartic floor coating and made in Canada premium metal cabinetry for a total garage makeover. Check out their website at garageliving.com. All their great work's shown there. And give our pal Pat Kanuga a buzz, 204-999-1234 to book a free in-garage consultation or make an appointment to meet him at their showroom at 981 Main Street. Garage Living Winnipeg. Garage is made for living. CFL 110 up right now on the WST YouTube channel. If you and your family have a move coming up in the next few months, or really any time, give our pals at Rolly's Transfer a call for the white glove treatment from the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Rolly has an extensive logistics business that takes them throughout the city and province on a daily basis, which means flexible timing, flexible routes, and great prices on that move. And you can get an even better price on that move being a WST listener. Check out their great website, rollies.com. Top right corner, there is a request an estimate button. Click on that. Let them know when you're moving, where you're moving, and what you're moving, and make sure to put in WST in the promo code for a special discount for WST listeners on moving services and moving supplies. For your next move, make it Rollies, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, family owned for over 60 years. Find out more or request an estimate today at rollies.com.
There's he'll be back on Tuesday, or no show Monday. He'll be back on Tuesday. He's currently at Montreal at the President's Cup. We are looking forward to tonight's Bomber game. Hosting Edmonton got a chance to punch their ticket to the playoffs. The rematch, back-to-back. Pumped to be joined by Ed Tait, BlueBombers.com. Ed, how's it going? Thanks so much for coming on today.
Remo, I'm fantastic. How are you, man?
Yeah, feeling good. Ready for the weekend. Should be a gorgeous night at Princess Auto Stadium. Can you believe the weather this September here? I mean, this game's been sold out for a couple days. Limited tickets for the final home game. The Bombers are blessed here with some great weather. We're almost in October.
I mean, I got a round of golf in today, Remo. I don't think I could this late in the September, so I'm pretty pumped too. You're right. Perfect day. You know, when you see the schedule come out and you see a late September Friday night game, that's kind of flirting with the potential disaster, right? Because when the fall hits, you never know what you're going to get. I like the afternoon games in the fall, but man, with the way today has unfolded and having a sellout crowd here tonight, it's going to be hopping.
Yeah, and the Bombers crowd hoping to propel them to the playoffs. I mean, started 0-4, and now with the chance to be the first team to clinch. I mean, how surprised are you? Has there really been a turnaround with the Bombers, or do they just kind of things are kind of breaking the right way for them?
It's a little bit of both, right? I mean, when they were 2-6, I think that's they were 2-6. And then that's when they had the back-to-back with BC. And I think everybody thought then, wow, if they don't at least get a split here with the Lions, this is going to potentially go sideways. And here they are. They've cranked out 6 in a row, won both games against the Lions, won both games against Saskatchewan, the Labor Day Classic and Banjo Bowl, won last week. Like, this run that they're on right now has come against their division, which has helped get them back into this. And it's really impressive. I think this is more what we thought at the beginning of the year, how this team might look, right? Because they had undergone some change in the offseason, but I don't think anybody thought that they would fall to 0-4 right out of the starting blocks. But they kind of treaded water for a little while, found their legs, and here we are with 6 in a row, chance to clinch, as you said. And I still think there's still another level for this team to get to, especially on offense, because, it's been kind of all over the map on that side of the ball. And I really like what they did in the second half last week against Edmonton, but it's still the lowest scoring offense in the CFL. And I never thought I'd be saying that at the start of the year.
Yeah, it's certainly a surprise. You're seeing them get into the red zone, but converting red zone opportunities into touchdowns been a bit of an issue this year. Thankfully for them, they have the best kicker in the league this year. And you look at last week's game, when you get all those turnovers and you can't really convert them into points, certainly some areas for improvement. But you had to be feeling good after a big win, 6-game win streak. What was the mood around the team at this week's practice?
I think it was upbeat. It's funny, this idea that they need one win to clinch a playoff spot was brought up with a bunch of players. A bunch of them didn't even realize that. And I don't think that's being naive. I think it's just that you're supposed to make the playoffs, right? 6 and 9 teams in this league make the playoffs. This team's been to the Grey Cup in 4 straight seasons. And so that's on the to-do list, but that's hardly the goal around here. And so it's been upbeat. I think what we saw, you talked about converting those turnovers and red zone opportunities. I think what we saw in the second half, I'm not a big believer of things carrying over from one game to the next, that kind of momentum thing, but I really like what I saw in the second half in Edmonton last week when the offense scored 3 touchdowns, the one to Pokey Wilson from Zach Collaros, and then the 2 rushing touchdowns from Brady Oliveira, capitalizing on some of those turnovers that we were talking about. I really think that could be the start of something. And if this offense can get going and get up close to the level that the defense is at right now, then the Bombers are going to make some noise when it really matters here down the stretch.
Yeah, they're trying to peak at the right time. You saw that with Montreal last year. You look at the opponent, as you mentioned, winning back-to-back games pretty hard. Hasn't been too tough for the Bombers this year. You said winning back-to-back against BC and Saskatchewan as well. But how about Edmonton going with the change at quarterback, starting McLeod Bethel Thompson instead of Trey Ford? What did you see from the opponent last week, and how are they going to look different this week with Bethel Thompson under center?
Yeah, it's an interesting move, isn't it? Because when they made the move, Bethel Thompson had played pretty well when Trey Ford was down. His passing numbers were through the roof. And then they made the move before last week's game to go back to Trey Ford because everybody saw the potential in him and sees him as potentially the long-term future for that franchise. He's such an exciting player. And yet he struggled in that game, and now immediately they go back to Bethel Thompson. So I'm not sure what that means. I'm not in there building it. Kind of from the outside, it looks like a little bit like desperation, right? Because they're in such a desperate time now to get into the playoffs. They need this win so much to keep in the conversation. But if you keep flip-flopping back and forth between quarterbacks, I'm not sure what that means for your room. How it affects the Bombers defensively. I had a good chat with Jordan Younger, the Bombers D coordinator, earlier this week, and you couldn't pick 2 quarterbacks that are more opposite than Trey Ford and McLeod Bethel Thompson. And the difference is going to be that Ford can extend plays with his legs. He's a dangerous runner, although we didn't see a whole lot of that last week. But when he gets outside of the pocket, he's still got his eyes downfield. And so the plays take longer because he's buying time and waiting for his receivers to get open for those explosive plays. With Bethel Thompson, the ball's just going to come out of his hand faster. It's a timing thing. And so it would be interesting to see what Jordan Younger and his crew dial up that might look different than last week because they really, really tried to keep Trey Ford in front of them and play a 2 safety thing to kind of system to try to keep him contained. But I wonder if that changes now with McLeod Bethel Thompson because the ball's in his hands and then it's out so fast. I don't think you can play the same kind or offer the same kind of looks that you do against Ford.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that shakes out for Edmonton. Yeah, the flip-flopping going back and forth. Not sure if that's for long-term success, but they need wins now as they try to get back in the playoffs after having such a run here of futility. Looking at the Bombers lineup, it's been all about the injury report the last couple weeks. Pretty clean sheet. I mean, Kyrie Wilson tried to give it a go last week and wasn't able to. He's still in the 6th game, but not really anything too notable in terms of injuries and lineup changes for this week compared to last.
No, it's pretty stable, and it's been rare to be able to say that this season. So the only couple changes are Kyrie Wilson, who didn't really even play last week. He pulled up with a different injury in the warm-up, so he didn't even play. So they were a man down, but Michael Ayers came in and did such a good job in his place. But now Wilson officially goes to the 6-game injured list. And they also bring on Brian Cole and Devin Adams. So Devin Adams been a pretty good defensive tackle. Brian Cole will help on defense, but is primarily a special teams player. But I think that's a little bit of a reaction to the Bombers giving up so much yards along the ground last week, and that's why Devin Adams is coming in to help, because he's kind of a beast against the run. But it is kind of quiet compared to other weeks when you only see a couple of changes with Wilson and Kendall Randolph, the old lineman, coming off, and then Cole and Devin Adams coming on. That's just 2 changes, and I'd have to go back and check, Remo, but I don't think there's been many times this year where the on and off list for the depth chart from one week to the next has been that small.
Yeah, they tweet out the sheet. I looked at it. There was like one name on there. I think it was earlier in the week. It was Lucky who didn't practice, although that seems to be a common thing, not practicing but still playing in the game. But it wasn't a ton of names on there. That's what we've seen. Yep. You know, looking around the lineup, I see you've got a nice article or column on the lead at bluebombers.com talking about the number of players who've stepped in this year. I mean, every year there's turnover, although it seems the Bombers have been pretty stable, but they lost some big names in the offseason. I mean, how do they keep doing it, finding guys like Ontario Wilson, Tyrell Ford, Terrell Bonds, Tony Jones last week? I mean, just incredible the way the Bombers have brought in new guys and integrated them into the roster.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving the shout out to the story, Remo. It's interesting because when they were 0-4, even before that, when the season started, there were so many people around the league that said the Bombers were getting old and hadn't done enough to change the roster heading into the season. And then you had the injuries and the 0-4 start, and that narrative just gets louder and louder. And yet here we are now, and the gist of the article is that how many of these young guys have stepped up and are making significant or playing significant roles in this turnaround. Pokey Wilson leads the team in receiving yardage. You mentioned now they've got Ford and Bonds, 2 new corners. You've got Michael Ayers and Tony Jones playing tonight, 2 new linebackers. You've got 2 new defensive linemen and Adams and Jamal Woods, and then the rotation at end with Taiwan Garbett and Celestin Habas. So that's a ton of change just on defense. On offense, it's Pokey Wilson, it's Carrick Wheatfall, it's Kevin Sklercius. Those guys are in because of the injuries to Dalton Schoen and Drew Wolotarski. You've got 2 changes at the beginning of the year on the offensive line, a new kick returner. So that's a whole lot of change, and maybe that's part of why the team started off so poorly, because you don't have a whole lot of time to integrate those guys. But now here we are, 6 games, a 6-game winning streak at 8-6, a chance to clinch a playoff spot. And it's not just the guys that you would expect that have played significant roles in getting here. It is the new faces, and that's something that people had to be patient with at the beginning of the year. But man, they're already getting dividends from it. And you have to shout out Danny McManus, Ted Gavaya, Cyril Penn, the guys that they're scouts and assistant GMs who do such a good job down in the States finding guys. And then Kyle Walters and his bunch do a real good job on the Canadian scouting too. So I think some of this change is planned and some of it was forced upon them because of the injuries. But it's been pretty impressive to see these guys learn on the job so quickly.
Yeah, I don't know how many people would have had, or what odds you could get on Pokey Wilson to lead the team in receiving yards before the start of the season. Big game, last one after a couple, after a quiet one in Saskatchewan, 55 yards on 5 catches and a big touchdown. I know we've talked a lot about MOP being so tough to decide. How about if there was a Rookie of the Year award on the Bombers? I think him and Tyrell Ford would be the leaders, but I mean, you could make argument for a number of players, as you said.
Yeah, I think, Ford wouldn't be eligible, Remo, because he did play that year before he went to Green Bay, but it's his first year starting, so I know where you're going with that. I think that Pokey Wilson is a legit CFL most outstanding rookie candidate, not just who will be the Bombers candidate. If he has a couple more games, like you said, the catches last week and the touchdown, he'll get over 1,000 yards, which is really tough to do in this league as a rookie. So he'd be impressive. And then the MOP thing, look, Brady Oliveira has been there all year, but with what he did last week with getting into the end zone for the first couple of times and going over 1,000 yards. I mean, he's gaining momentum in that conversation just because of the way he's playing, but also because it's so muddied around the league as to who the leading candidates are. I keep hearing Bo Levi Mitchell's name, and he's got great numbers, but the Tiger Cats might not make the playoffs. So I think it's only a couple times in league history that an MOP has come from a non-playoff team. So it's a really juicy debate as we get down the stretch here. It's not what anybody's chasing as a team, but I know that Brady Oliveira would love to be. He was a finalist last year. I know he'd love to win that award, but he said it this week. His number one goal is to be holding the trophy up on that Sunday in November instead of. He was so emotional, like a lot of Bombers, after losing that game in against Montreal last year in the Grey Cup.
Certainly a tough one, and the Bombers looking to get revenge. Brady Oliveira leading the league in rushing, 1,021, maybe the touchdowns holding them back. But that's kind of the nature of the CFL, where you have backup quarterbacks leading the league in touchdowns. I'm looking at rushing touchdowns, looking at the leaders. Trevler, Stevens, Prukop, Crum, not exactly a lot of running backs punching it in. So I don't even know if you should hold the lack of touchdowns. He did have 2 last week against him.
Right. It's a great point. And I think what we saw last week, that the philosophy of this team changed a little bit in that short yardage thing, because with Strevler out, Terry Wilson didn't get a snap. They just went at it differently than what we've seen. We're so used to seeing Strevler out there and pushing the pile and threatening the edge with his, he's like a fullback and a quarterback body. But with him out of the lineup, it looked different at the goal line with Brady getting in a couple of times, and it looked different elsewhere on the field too, with how they approached second and third and short, because they didn't have Strevler to lean on. So I would expect that this is going to continue, where Brady's touches are going to go up in the score zone, especially at the goal line. Why wouldn't you? He's such a powerhouse back. I think that's the look the Bombers are going to continue with.
Yeah, it was, again, nice to see him getting in. So they did the chicken dance. Yeah. Loved it. So hopefully we can see a couple more of those. Getting to the chicken box is what Lucky Whitehead's term. Coming up, it's the 5th year anniversary of the Bombers acquiring Zach Collaros, October 9, 2019. I don't know exactly when the trade deadline is. They don't have the dates, but we're not expecting any moves here from the Bombers at the deadline. You think we'll see some movement around the league? It seems almost like late, and teams are kind of getting into the swing of things here.
Yeah, it's a good question. In the NHL, we would know when the trade deadline is months in advance, and I don't even know when the CFL one is. I know it's next month. And if you go back, it's funny you say that 5 years ago. It doesn't seem like that, but
no.
In a lot of ways, that trade was made last minute, and it was made because Matt Nichols was down, and then Chris Strevler got hurt at the time, and they kind of needed an insurance policy. And if you recall, the Bombers had sniffed around on Zach Collaros. The Argos were going to re-sign him, and then the Argos made a general manager change 2 days before the trade deadline, and that Jim Popp was let go. The Bombers circled back with Pinball Clements and the Argos and said, well, hey, what about Zach Collaros? Can we come back to that? And they made that move. And, it sounds so cliche, but the rest is history for the Bombers, right? 4 straight Grey Cups, 2 championships. And I just don't see them being very active again at the trade deadline now, unless something happens again that puts them into a desperation mode. It's just not the way they operate around here. Mike O'Shea has said over and over again that everybody in that locker room is a starter. And so if somebody else significant was to go down, what they do is it's the next man up. And then that's what they'll try to do here. So I'd be shocked if they do something at the trade deadline that significant again, just because it's late in the year. You've got your team. And again, unless you're desperate, you have to trust what you have in your house too before you go out and make a major swing at something like that.
They seem on a 6-game win streak, hitting their stride. And Farhan Lalji TSN did tweet out earlier this week that he has the trade deadline October 1. And
okay, I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, he says teams are reaching out to BC about Vernon Adams, but they're not interested in moving him. And Vernon Adams did get in last week. They pulled Nathan Rourke in the second half, and their game against who was it? It was 2 weeks ago against Toronto. They lost. They are hosting Hamilton. I mean, a big game for them tonight, as they're trying to keep pace with the Bombers.
Yeah, they've got the Grey Cup in Vancouver this year, and I think that's part of why they would be reluctant to move on. I mean, they're one hit away too. If Nathan Rourke was to get hurt, then if you don't have Vernon Adams, in house or in your bullpen, then that sure changes things as they approach the playoffs. It's so interesting, hey, because a few weeks ago when Winnipeg went into Vancouver for that first of the there's a second game. I'm getting this mixed up. When they had the back-to-back against BC, there was a lot of desperation around here, and now that things have turned around, the Bombers just have to focus on what's in front of them here and take care of business. And now the Lions are in chase mode. They've got kind of not a quarterback controversy, but a lot of uncertainty at that position. And I think that game is going to be a hell of a game because the way the Tiger Cats are playing right now, they're not the free space on the bingo card that they were a few weeks and months ago. They're as good as anybody in this league right now. So this is the best part of the year for the CFL because there's so much going on. This West Division race is so crazy. But like I said, with the Bombers just having to fixate on what's right in front of them instead of doing scoreboard watching, as long as they're in the driver's seat like that, that's the most important thing. And that's why tonight's important too. If you just keep cranking out W's, you don't have to worry about what the rest of the division is doing around you.
Yep. And you look at the Bombers, you talk about at home, 5-2 at home, but those 2 losses at the beginning of the year, so 5-game win streak, sold out crowd. And it's going to be a special night at Princess Auto Stadium, the 4th orange shirt game. I see you got the hoodie on. The Bombers were wearing the Indigenous designed logo. What else is going on at Princess Auto Stadium to commemorate National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, which is officially on Monday?
There's so much going on in the pregame and at halftime, Remo. And I think what's really cool about this is that all kinds of kids are flown in from northern communities, First Nation communities. Had never been, like we've told this story before, and there'll be videos and stuff done on our site. But a lot of these kids have never been on a plane before. I've talked to some of the handlers, and they said kids have never been on an elevator before. So when they walk out and see this stadium full, and you get the stadium's getting more and more orange, with more people getting on with this move, it's really cool. But to see those kids and that one section in particular all decked out in orange, it's a pretty powerful thing, and it's a small thing. In terms of truth and reconciliation, but I know it means an awful lot to those involved, and for those kids, that's a special thing because I can remember the first time I ever went to a football game or a hockey game. I can still in my head remember what it was like, and so it's a special moment, and that's part of what makes this cool tonight too.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing all that. They're wearing the orange jerseys in warm-up, being auctioned off as well, so should be a great night tonight at Princess Auto Stadium. As we wind down, I know I wanted to ask you about this. We mentioned off the top Bryan Little being honored by the Jets October 20. You were working for the Free Press when the Jets came here. What do you remember about covering Bryan Little and the person that he was?
I appreciate you asking that. Yeah. He might be one of my favorite guys that I've ever dealt with in sports, and I'll tell you a couple things. Remember when the team first came here from Atlanta, there was so much fascination with them, and I was happy to make the switch from football to hockey because it was such a fascinating story to cover. I remember going to the Iceplex in the summer. Someone had told me that some of the Jets were skating there, and this is way before training camp, and I just happened to see Bryan Little. Asked him if he could do an interview. There was no Jets PR people there because it was just an optional skate. And I sat down with him. He gave me about 10 minutes. I said, tell us a little bit about, as hockey fans, what we're going to get to see here. Like, who's the strongest guy? Who's the funniest guy? Who's the fastest guy? Who's someone that's underrated? And he just rattled off all these names, and it made for a really fun story. But the thing I'll appreciate him the most about him the most as a reporter was as the season went on, and people remember we were just so happy to have the hockey back in Winnipeg, but there were ups and downs with that team in their first year. And Bryan Little had struggled to score a little bit, and there'd be games where The team had lost 5-1, and he would always make himself available. Not everybody did. Not everybody does to this day. But Bryan Little, if you ask for him to talk to him after a 5-1 loss, or if you ask to talk to him if he's gone 10 games without scoring, he'd step out there in front of the cameras or in front of a microphone and notepad and answer the questions. He was such a pro. That's what I will remember about him the most, and I appreciate about him the most. He's just so accessible, down to earth. He was a pleasure to deal with.
Ed, thank you so much for taking the time on a game day, sharing your thoughts. Now on Bryan Little, I did pull up that article here actually now with the Free Press. I'm quick. And on the Bombers, do you remember this one? Here, I'll pull it up right now.
Wow.
Here, little insight into the Jets.
There you go. Wow, look at you, man.
Ed Tait. He says, you're going to see a young and exciting team. We had some great teams and are fun to watch. You're going to see a lot of energy. So we had Burmistrov, sharpest stresser. Easy, Jim Slater, worst stresser. Funniest guy, Enstrom, Oduya. Toughest guy, Bufflin. Best athlete, Bogosian. Budding superstar, Kane. He also mentions Burmistrov. Voice of reason, Lad. Fastest skater, Bogosian. Hardest shot, Bufflin. So there it is.
You go.
What day was that? Wednesday, August 31, 2011.
Yeah. That was the first time I ever interviewed Bryan Little. So, wow, look at you. You're magical on that stuff, Remo. Good for you.
I can do it all. Just a quick Google search there. Appreciate you coming on, Ed.
Right on. Appreciate you having me on, Remo. Take care.
Thanks so much. There he is, Ed Tait. BlueBombers.com, on X, formerly known as Twitter, Ed Tait, WFC. He's also part of the CJOB Winnipeg Blue Bombers broadcast. We go from the Bombers to the Jets. Scott Billeck, he's been hanging around Hockey for All Center, and he's coming up next. We'll touch on tonight's Winnipeg Jets preseason game and the lines and everything going on with the team. Here's Huss with a couple reads.
Looks like we're going to have some beautiful weather coming in for the remainder of September for the most part. Might be time to get a few more projects done or maybe even started. Heck, our friends at Consolidated Supply can help you with so much. You really have to pop in and see them at their showroom at 1395 Niagara to see it, to believe it. But, I mean, where do we start? They're the leaders in irrigation solutions and systems. Had a big start to the year considering how wet our May and June was. But so much more than that, artificial turf. You want that dream putting green in the backyard? They can make that happen. Something inside, no problem. Golf carts, the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba, both new and used, as well as other innovative vehicles from Club Car with industrial usage. And then other great options for your property like hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens. They're also the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Get on down and see Consolidated Supply at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. And before we bring in Pagnotta, a huge shout out to our friends at Manitoba Battery. You know, batteries, we take them for granted at times, certainly in the winter. But you know, when your truck won't start, who are you to call? And that, of course, is Manitoba Battery. Now, Manitoba Battery has batteries for literally everything. They've been powering boats and campers and ATVs and all the fun stuff this summer. But very soon it's going to be getting down to business for another Manitoba winter. For all of your battery needs, make sure you're prepared and do it locally and get the best prices in town. Manitoba Battery, beating the pants off the big box stores on price and with the best service as well. You can see them on Logan Avenue or on Dover Court at either of their two locations. Or you can give them a call or order online, and Manitoba Battery will deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Shop local, they'll bring it to you. Order online today at manitobabattery.com.
There's us. He's in Montreal at the President's Cup. Check him out. Check his X account out. He's got some videos of him walking around the grounds, everything. So he's having a good time in Montreal. He will be back on Tuesday. And it is not David Pagnotta coming up. I need to change that, but I did not. It is Scott Billeck with the Winnipeg Sun, fresh off trip to Hockey for All Center for Winnipeg Jets practice and the morning skate. Let's bring him on. Scott, how you doing, man? Thanks for hopping on here on a Friday.
Yeah, no problem. You can call this the fifth period. How about that?
There you go.
The fifth period. If Dave Pagnotta is the fourth period, I can be the fifth period.
You got it. So a bit of an eventful couple days here in terms of player news at Hockey for All Center.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just injuries. Really unfortunate ones, right? Like the Villy one, you were sort of hoping that, you know, maybe he could just take some antibiotics and that would get rid of the infection. But obviously, they had to go in and take out the screw or the pin that they put in there. Obviously, that was where the infection sort of emanated from, and now the team is without him. And then, you know, this morning, Scott Arneil comes out and tells everybody that Logan Stanley needs knee surgery. And so now the Jets are down 2 left side defensemen. While, you know, Villy was likely going to be the guy starting in that third line role. And then Logan Stanley, you know, he would at least been, based on what Arneil said today, probably your 7th guy, just kind of based on what he was saying. Yeah, so the depth just isn't there on the left side now. We've talked forever about right side depth, and now, you know, it's the left side that after Josh Morrissey and Dylan Sandberg, it's Tait Fleury. So yeah, it's certainly an interesting predicament. You know, it obviously shows that it was a good thing that the Jets went out and got some depth over the summer. Hayden Fleury has been kind of champing at the bit to kind of get into a role to try and like establish himself as an NHLer. He's dealt with a lot of injuries himself. Never really lived up to his first round where he was taken in the first round. I believe, I want to say he was 7th overall, if I'm not mistaken. And then you got behind him, you know, it could be Dylan Coghlan. He's a right shot guy, but he can play the left side if you need him to. And maybe Simon Lundmark. I'm interested to see. I mean, he's kind of gone in. He went in for Stanley. He was in Stanley's spot yesterday, he was in Sandberg's spot yesterday when Sandberg didn't practice. Maintenance day for Dylan Sandberg. So I'm kind of interested to see where Simon Lundmark is going to fit on this. He's gotten an opportunity, and I think a lot of us agreed last game watching him. He was very steady. And steady is sort of the name of the game on this defense, in this defensive core. So it's unfortunate, but you know, this is training camp, right? I mean, these things happen almost every year, and here are the Jets now, trying to figure out really kind of what they're going to look like now heading into the season. And the defense, and I think a lot of people would agree, it got worse over the summer. Without Dylan Sandberg, too many Dylans on this team. Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt being bought out. Dillon obviously leaving in free agency. The defense, you know, the talent on the back end was, let's say, you know, it was weakened for sure, right? And now you have 2 injuries and guys who have played NHL minutes before. Billy not as much as Logan had, but yeah, it's going to put on some pressure. I'd be interesting to see now if the Jets look. I mean, we're going to have cuts coming up over the next week and a half here. You know, does a cut somewhere else that didn't make the roster and maybe, you know, on a different team that has maybe, you know, it's a bit more of a powerhouse on defense. Do the Jets kind of look that way, given that you're going to miss these 2 guys for at least a month? And, you know, a month is probably being optimistic on both of them, given neither of them are going to be able to skate for a month, right? So, yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of see if the Jets go out and look to the waiver wire, or if they try and figure out something, a trade of some sort, to try and kind of shore up some depth that way too. But for now, it's Hayden Fleury's job to lose, and after that, it gets pretty thin if you want a left shot defenseman on your third pairing.
Yeah, I should mention tonight's game streaming only. WinnipegJets.com. The Bomber game be on the TSNs, probably TSN 3, I'm assuming. But hopefully there's no streaming problems. I know there were some issues with the other streaming only game. Thankfully, it's only like 2 preseason games a year that are streaming only, although there will be 4 Amazon games on Amazon Prime only this year coming up. So some changes the way we're going to be watching Monday night hockey. You mentioned the defense. We had the injuries, Stanley, Heinola updates, but we're going to see for the first time in preseason, Cole Perfetti, he's back on the ice, big contract signed. Nice to finally get that done. No animosity, nothing too long, and he'll be on the top line with Brad Lambert, who's trying to make the most of his opportunity, and Alex Iafallo. But Cole Perfetti, must have been nice for him to finally get that out of the way and get back on the ice.
Yeah, you could definitely see the relief in his face on Tuesday morning when he kind of came and spoke to all of us and kind of having a little bit of an inside look at the whole process. It was interesting to see. And I talked to Cole yesterday a little bit after practice, and he was pretty he was just happy to be back. I mean, I don't think any kind of 22-year-old player trying to establish himself as a regular NHLer wants to be missing time, right? But business is business in this league, and the Jets had leverage this time. They used it. Perfetti's side tried to impose anything that they could, and they got the deal done at the end of the day, right? So I think now it's just good for Perfetti to get into some game action. I mean, they got 3 more games left here. Suspect he's going to feature in all of them because they're going to want to get him up to speed. Get him up to speed on the power play, the PK work. Although he was here for that first practice, we're going to do another one next week as well, working on their new systems for both sides of special teams. But Cole was he was smiling when he got there. Yeah, he didn't look. I mean, I think this thing, if it got drawn out much longer, maybe another week or so, I think that's when you start to get into that space where this could anger a player. It could sour a relationship. But it didn't get there, right? And I think at the end, Perfetti probably gives up a little bit more than he would like to, and the Jets probably end up paying more than they wanted to. But at the end of the day, you get a deal done. Perfetti didn't miss, Perfetti didn't miss any sort of appreciable time, let's say. He wasn't going to he might have played in one of the first 2 games, but I don't think so. My guess is they would have left him. I know they want to see what they're going to look at tonight. They want to see Lambert with Perfetti. Wouldn't be surprised. They're going to want to see that going on because Lambert's still got a shot at making this team, as Scott Arneil said yesterday. So it'll be fun to watch. I'm waiting for next week's games, right? Like this one's another one, but this one's tonight's game's a really good test, not just for Cole, right? But like this is a big test for Brad Lambert. This game's really a game where he needs to show he can play at this level, and Minnesota's got a pretty good lineup coming tonight from what I've seen. So you're going to see what Brad Lambert can do. There's the lines right there with Iafallo. No Ehlers tonight. I thought Ehlers was going to play. I even remember Arneil saying that, but I guess that just didn't work out that way. So the Jets don't have the biggest lineup obviously tonight. But it's a good test for some of these kids. I mean, even Nikita Chibikov, be nice to see Braden Yeager against a more NHL kind of heavy lineup. Rasmus Kupari, I'm interested to see there. I'm wondering if Rasmus Kupari is winning that 4th line job if Vlad Nemestikov is your 2nd line center this year, or at least to start the year. So that'll be interesting to see. And then that Fleury and Miller pairing, we've seen it a little bit in camp. I believe we saw it in the 2nd game of preseason, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the 1st one. He had the 2nd game off, I think. Maybe the 1st one. But yeah, either way. And Sal Monson is sticking around here. Injuries, obviously. and Lundmark isn't, he's sort of out of the mix there. It'll be a good test for Elias to see how he handles more NHL talent, right? I mean, Elias, and I think there's a lot of people that are excited about Elias, and I don't suspect we're going to see much of him in the NHL this year, if any. But it's been fun to watch him sort of navigate the North American game in the games that he's played so far. The smaller ice, it's more compact, obviously, than what he was playing in Sweden. And so he's, another test for him tonight too. I like Camp's been good for that sort of thing, and Scott Arneil's put together a pretty good plan at giving these guys opportunities to show what they can do at the NHL level, which is good. Like I can remember at camps in the past where it's like the young kids would play against the young kids in the first 2 or 3 games, and then you wouldn't really see a lot of them in the latter 3. And those latter 3 are often the ones where teams actually start to ramp up, get their rosters. I mean, Connor Hrabchak's in the lineup tonight. So, this is a game where you're going to see more NHL talent out there, and it's going to test some of these young guys. And I've really liked what I've seen from like a guy like Braden Yeager, but I want to see what he's like against, NHLers, and how close is that guy to playing? Because he's been impressive. Braden Yeager's been very impressive. I like the way he moves with the puck, the way that he's very smart. He doesn't look out of place in camp against, other NHL talent that he's playing against. But you want to see him against a team that isn't gonna, I'm not saying they go easy on him or anything like that in camp, but nobody's trying to get injured in camp, right? Nobody's trying to get injured in these games either, but it's a harder game to play when you're actually playing, a team that doesn't always have your best interests in mind, let's say. But it should be a good game, and I think there's a lot to be looking at and looking for tonight, and a lot to see where some of these young kids, and again, like I said off the top, I think this is that's too dramatic. It's a big game for Brad Lambert. I think this game may or may not decide kind of how they view him over the final week of training camp. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he gets on against a bigger and better roster than he's played against so far.
Yeah, I mean, that Edmonton roster on Wednesday, Scott, it was basically it was the Bakersfield Condors plus not a lot of NHL regulars in that lineup. And so I know you want to get excited. A young player had a nice game, a bit of different competition tonight when you look at the lines. Michael Russo from The Athletic putting on Twitter, Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello in the lineup. Brock Faber is going to be there as well. Marc-Andre Fleury playing in net. I mean, for Brad Lambert, he's getting the opportunity on the top line with Perfetti and Iafallo. Do you think he has a real shot here to make the lineup, or is it, what does he have to do here to punch his ticket into the opening night lineup?
Well, I mean, he's got to show that he can hang with these guys, right? And it's not just offensively, right? The guy's really good offensively. We know that. We know he has those skills. What is his 200-foot game going to look like tonight? How is he going to deal with the physicality that he's likely going to see? How does he handle maybe a guy like Ryan Hartman's a bit of a pest tonight to him, right? Who knows who's going to be shadowing Brad Lambert tonight, trying to throw him off his game. How does he handle that? And just how does he handle the defensive part? And it's just, it's little things, mistakes and stuff. They're really looking at a lot of, little, they're not granular, of course. These are things that you need to be good at to play in this game, but he's got to be impressive at both ends of the ice. And most likely, more than likely, he has to be more impressive, in the Jets half in the Jets zone. And that's what you want to see. You want to see a guy that's competing hard. I mean, these are a lot of hockey cliches, right? But this is what this team wants to see. It's what Scott Arneil wants to see. They want to see guys that are competing. It looks to be like this is going to be very aggressive, the way that the Jets play, and pretty aggressive, and that extends to the special teams as well. And so it's a hard work. There's a lot of buy-in that has to happen here, and Brad Lambert needs to show that he can do that. My opinion of it all, and I've said this all along, is I think Brad Lambert should get a long look when the season starts. The 9-game thing doesn't apply to him anymore. His his deals, his ELC slides at now at any point. He's not a junior player anymore. So they don't have to worry about burning years. It's going to get burned anyway. So you can get him there and playing. I see no reason why Vlad Nemestikov can't start your fourth line center. It gives your team again a viable you're a 4-line team at that point. And they, Rick Bowness liked to run the team that way. There's a big reason why they went and got Sean Monahan last year. All the top contending teams were 4-line teams. So the Jets want to be a 4-line team too. Jets weren't a 4-line team last year when Raspberry was playing center. Jabari's looked better this year, but it's just training camp, right? I mean, you want to see this live bullets, right? Sort of thing. So we'll see. But I think Brad Lambert should be giving every opportunity to make this roster. Let him make mistakes. I know Kevin Cheveldayoff likes to say that the NHL is not a developmental league, yada yada. But I think Brad Lambert has shown enough so far that you can give him some runway in the regular season. That said, the competition picks up tonight, so see how he handles that. That's a big test. But if he passes this test tonight, I think it's going to go very well for him. And I think the Jets could really use a guy like that, a skilled second line center with speed, ability to shoot, playmaking, not afraid to shoot. And if Brad can show that he's capable at the other end of the ice, I think that's something that you can build on. And yeah, I think you can sort of develop that and let him, there'll be growing pains, but a lot of teams do this, and it's not, the Jets are one of the few teams sometimes that really kind of promote their young talent. They do it very slowly. But I think there's a real opportunity and a spot here this year for Brad Lambert to be a part of this team and to give him, as I said, some runway to kind of, learn kind of on the fly a little bit. And you can always go back to Vlad Nemestikov, right? I mean, that's one of the nice things about having Nemestikov. He's that cliche Swiss Army knife, right? You can always put him there. So you're not necessarily losing anything, especially early in the season. But you could really find, there could be a lot of found money, let's say, in a guy like Brad Lambert playing center. So I think what they do, my opinion is they do that. That's what they do. That's what they should do. Give him a chance, because that's, the last thing that this team wants to probably end up doing is going into a year where, you sort of spoke about having all these opportunities for your young kids to maybe make the team, and then go into the year without any of those young players actually graduating to the NHL. Don't think that's sort of the look that they want. And I think Brad Lambert offers them, some hope that they don't have to kind of take that criticism, I suspect, down the line if they weren't to graduate any of their young guys this year.
Yeah, it seems to be, we're talking so much about a guy who may not even be on the team, one of the few roster spots that are open, because they're bringing back basically the same team. All the forwards returned. The defense, you lost Dylan. Nate Schmidt was a healthy scratch. Maybe you have some, Colin Miller. He's back actually getting to the lineup now. So, see what happens with Brad Lambert. That is something to watch tonight. Off the ice, the Jets did announce today Bryan Little going to be honored October 20. You got any Bryan Little memories, Scott, that you care to share as a guy very deserving and something that we'd speculated might happen? And nice to see a 2.0 player being honored in a game. It would be the first.
Probably the best Bryan Little memory for fans. I wonder what it is. I mean, there's several of them, right? Go back to the Anaheim series. I think it was Game 3. He scores that goal at home. I want to say that was the first goal. No, was that Stepniak that maybe? Anyways, whatever happened in that game. I know he scored in Game 3 of that Anaheim series, and that was a big deal. His overtime goal, though, in the Heritage Classic in Regina in 2019, that was pretty cool. That was obviously being there was cool to be. I mean, I'd been a part of the 2016 outdoor game here. The Jets didn't win that game, and watching them win in Regina which is always interesting, right? I mean, the Bombers go in there. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to watch, but it was a cool moment for Bryan Little, and I think it was made better because it was one of the last kind of good moments people probably remember of Bryan Little. That game happened, I want to say, what was that, October? It was late October, October 27th, maybe that year. That game was 28th, something like that. And then Little, he had come back from a concussion that he had suffered in Minnesota in the final preseason game that season. And then I believe it was November 5th when he took the puck to the head off of Nikolai Ehlers' stick there that effectively ended his career, right? So that's probably the last memory that a lot of people have of Bryan Little in a Jets uniform, other than the unfortunate one. And so, yeah, that's the nice thing about, or the one thing about Bryan Little is just how approachable and nice he was. I don't think it was ever lost on Bryan Little. It was never lost on Bryan Little how much hockey meant to this market. I think, you could tell that he took out time for fans, took out time for kids all the time. You'd see him everywhere, either signing an autograph or he would stop and talk to somebody. Like, that was Bryan Little. Bryan Little was like the consummate professional. But it was never lost on him playing in a Canadian market, what that meant to that market, to the people. And Bryan Little was, sort of the silent captain on that team, right? Blake Wheeler looked up to Bryan Little. A lot of the guys in that dressing room looked up to Bryan Little. He was well regarded in that room. And he just sort of went about his business, right? Bryan Little, it's as blue collar as it get. That was a guy that would go out, get the job done, lead silently. He wasn't a loud guy by any means. At least, not really from what I ever heard in the dressing room or on the bench. But he was one of those types of guys that went out there. He didn't need to do the whole hoorah type thing. He would go out there and kind of show it to you. Very few nights you would say, hey, Bryan Little, didn't play a good game or whatever, right? Bryan Little was always, he was steady. He was a very steady player. And the organization loved him, right? I mean, you could tell that the contract that he signed, some people argue, it's a bit too much, a bit too long or whatever. But that was 100% a loyalty contract, and they signed it to him because Bryan Little meant a lot to the club, and you can tell now. The other thing that Bryan Little did too was he didn't have to waive his no movement clause, right? I think it was a no trade at that point by the time the Jets traded him in 2022. It had moved to a modified no trade. He didn't have to do that, but that helped the Jets a lot. It got them out of LTIR hell, and that's something the Jets didn't want to be in. Kevin Cheveldayoff hated being in LTIR. That's just not something he likes to accrue cap space and all that stuff. Didn't want to be doing the salary cap gymnastics, and Bryan Little came through to him then, even when he couldn't do it on the ice or in the dressing room or whatever. Bryan Little waived his no movement, so that could happen. And now they're rewarding him. He's going to sign a contract here, retire as a Winnipeg Jet. It's the only way it should be. Bryan Little deserves that, right? I mean, I think it's just a career that ended too early. Bryan Little meant a lot to this organization. I think he meant a lot to the fan base. And I think on October 20th, when Pittsburgh's here, Bryan Little's he's going to feel that, because I think there's a lot of people that really respect him, like what he brought to this team. And here's a guy who spent his whole career with the same organization, never wanted out, never wanted to go anywhere else, happily re-signed in Winnipeg. So it's a good day for the team. I think it's a good day for the fan base too. And that day, I think the Jets called it a celebration. I think that's exactly what it's going to be. And Bryan Little deserves nothing else, nothing less than that. He is one of the guys that I think this team can really kind of showcase as one of the best to ever wear the jersey.
Yeah, the Jets have done such a great job with their pregame ceremonies. I think Blake Wheeler, Sam Gagne, Paul Stastny, 1,000 game, and then the honoring Dale Hawerchuk or Solani and Newman. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring on that afternoon, October 20, against Pittsburgh. Scott, thank you so much for hopping on. What do you got going on this weekend? Will you be tuned into WinnipegJets.com for the Jets or at Princess
I
Auto
might pull
Stadium?
the double duty, I might be doing that while watching the Bomber game, right? So you can watch the Jets game while watching the Bomber game. I think it's going to be a really good crowd tonight. Obviously, the Bombers have a chance to clinch a playoff spot with a win the season series with Edmonton with a win, and really kind of cement not cement it bring them one win closer to locking up the West Final in a year that, at 0-4, nobody ever expected that to happen. At 2-6, nobody was thinking the Bombers would come close to winning or to hosting the West Final, and yet here they are now, sort of coming together at the right time, and arguably this team still is a bit off of it, or a lot off of it when it comes to their offense. If they can get that sorted, look out, because this Bombers defense is really good. Brady Oliveira has been very solid this year in the run game, even when the offense hasn't really worked through the air. So big game tonight. Should be fun. The weather's great. It's going to be loud. I'm looking forward to that. And obviously watching the Jets I wouldn't say prospects, the Jets from afar, who are playing in Minnesota tonight.
There he is, Scott Billeck, Winnipeg Sun, on X/Twitter at Scott Billeck. Thank you, Scott, for hopping on. Great chatting with you.
Yeah, see you guys. Appreciate it.
There he is, Scott Billeck. Thanks a lot for hopping on. We're going to move from the pucks to the National Football League. Week 4 starting up. We got Lee Hacksaw Hamilton coming up with his full notebook. Super pumped to bring on Lee, but first, here's Huss.
Of course, we got a big Blue Bomber game on Friday night. The rematch, Bombers Elks, MBT starting for the Edmonton Elks coming into Princess Auto Stadium to take on the Bombers. Other big news, Jeremiah Masoli getting the start for Ottawa in Saskatchewan. We'll be all over it this week on the show. Of course, all of our Bomber reports are brought to you by Princess Auto, proud sponsors of WST, and of course, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And the home of the Bombers, Princess Auto Stadium, will be packed and will be rocking on Friday night for the big game. Get there early. Princess Auto tailgate zone 2 hours before game time. $5 beers, $3.50 poppin' hot dogs, entertainment, inflatables for the kids. It is absolutely the place to be. Weather looks like it's going to be gorgeous. So get on out there early and make the entire Princess Auto Stadium experience a full one with the Princess Auto tailgate party beforehand. Of course, Princess Auto founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, taking care of our Bomber fans and, of course, Winnipeg sports fans as well. You can get the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new at Princess Auto. Visit them on Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Speaking of Princess Auto Stadium, I hope that they have replenished the Canadian Club stock coming out of the Banjo Bowl for the game on Friday. Canadian Club is, of course, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and is available throughout Princess Auto Stadium on game days. While you're there, you might want to check out Canadian Club and Ginger Ale, premixed cocktail in cans. One of my favorite drinks of the summer and a very popular one for Bomber fans as well. That is available at Princess Auto Stadium. And while the entire Canadian Club family of spirits are available at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart, you can also pick up CC and Ginger on your next trip to your local beer store, so keep your eyes out on that. Big thanks to Canadian Club for their continued support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Folks, if you have fencing or overhead door needs, there's only one place you need to go in Winnipeg, and that, of course, is Wallace & Wallace. And that hasn't changed for about 7 decades because they've been the leaders in both since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, Wallace & Wallace has you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if you need a new garage door, talk to the experts at Wallace & Wallace about one, because they have the largest selection in Manitoba as the exclusive Clopay dealer in town. That new garage door will beautify your house and add value to it as well. Give Wallace & Wallace a call, 204-452-2700. Their team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenaston. And folks, while we've got gorgeous weather this week, fall is pretty much here. And as we get into the new season, if you are looking into your closet and realize that you need to maybe up your menswear game, we got you covered. Head on down to F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown, for the best in custom men's clothing. Custom suits beginning at just $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories available in town. If you are getting married this year or in a wedding party coming up in the future, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a 15% discount for the entire wedding party when you get your suits at F Apparel. F is at 190 Smith Street downtown. You can find out more information or book an appointment to come in for a fitting online at F. That's EPHapparel.com.
There's Huss. He's in Montreal, President's Cup. He'll be back Tuesday. One guy who is here right now. So pumped to have on Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, leehacksawhamilton.com, Hacksaw 1090 on Twitter. He's on YouTube. He's got his own podcast, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton Sports. Lee, how's it going?
Mikey, nice to see you. Pinch hitting. Just remember this, though. Pinch hitters should not hit 226, so do a good job.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. Lee, I wanted to ask you, because you're out there in Southern California, but Northern California, big story in baseball is the last homestand for the Oakland A's at the Coliseum. I can't help but feel sad for the fans there, losing their third team in 5 years. The Raiders going to Vegas and the Warriors moving across the bridge at San Francisco. But it just seems like the owner with the A's didn't want to put any money in the team, and now moving to Sacramento for a couple of years before he tries to get them into Vegas. An interesting situation and just unfortunate for all the fans there.
Well, it's a terrible situation when you lose your franchise. You know, we lost our Chargers in San Diego. A greedy owner took them to Los Angeles, where they haven't won, and they're on the periphery of fan interest in the second market in the country. The Oakland thing is a little bit more complicated, but I blame Major League Baseball. I blame Rob Manfred, the commissioner, and I blame ownership, and I blame the Players Association, and I blame the city of Oakland and Alameda County. It's just there's a lot of layers of issues here. Oakland is not an economically great place to live. It doesn't have Silicon Valley industry. Its limitations are right there financially. They've had a real struggle economically to pay bills as a city. They've had all kinds of problems with funding education, police, etc. So to ask a city of Oakland to pour tons of money into a new stadium, they can't do it. And that's why they lost the Raiders. That's why they lost the Warriors, because they just couldn't get the facilities built. Now, that being said, you look at the operation of the National Football League, what Roger Goodell has done, what the union has done, what the G3 Fund has done to help each of these clubs in these cities either renovate their stadiums or build new stadiums. That's the business model. And baseball just has not done it. They didn't do it in Montreal. Obviously, they got a mess in Miami. This thing lingered on in Tampa, and now this sad state of affairs in Oakland. Yeah, part of it is John Fisher. They tried supposedly to look at 4 or 5 different proposals, but it was always financing. There was always some roadblock, some of it coming from the owner not wanting to pour a lot of money into it, some of it coming from the city of Oakland and Alameda County not having the resources to pour a lot of money into it. End result, they think they're going to Las Vegas, but they got to make their way to Vegas through Sacramento. You're going to spend 3 summers playing in brutally hot weather in a minor league ballpark. That's an issue. And they still don't have the money and the funding for all the stuff they need to get the Las Vegas stadium built. I'm saddened that this happened. But, baseball needs to adopt what the NFL did. This G3 fund has made the NFL a viable entity in all the markets, good or bad, big or small. And baseball just has never adopted it. And they got the money in their checking account to pour some money in, demand the owners pour some money in, and get the city and county to co-finance. That's the way you get things done in the 2024 going forward. But it's terrible and a bad product on top of it. One other sidebar comment. I wrote a column on my website yesterday about the Oakland Athletics history. A lot of people don't know this. They were the Philadelphia Athletics. They were very successful, led by Connie Mack. And he ran into money problems. He had to sell his team twice. He broke it down twice and auctioned off all of his players in the 20s and 30s. Then they went to Kansas City, brand new market. They thought were going to be successful. And that ownership bought in, didn't have the money to operate it. They became a farm team for the New York Yankees, kept trading all their stars to the Yankees. And then they go to Oakland with Charlie Finley. And Finley had an astute way to do business, signed a lot of players, won. And then as the contracts went up and baseball free agency came in, Charlie O tried to sell all of his players off, got into a war with the commissioner, lost his players. That led to free agency and everything. And since then, the Oakland A's have really been down for a long period of time. So it's weird, a franchise that had tremendous success where it started and then great success afterwards would just stagger the way it did. So, yeah, it's a long answer to your comment. Yeah, it's really a sad story, but a lot of people with blood on their hands on this one.
For sure. And moving on, I'll just quickly ask you with the Kings. I know you're in Southern California. Tough to see Drew Doughty have a left ankle injury, x-rays showing a fracture. It's what is being reported, but man, that's a big one for the Kings, looking to have a bounce back season with a new coach this year. And they made the big trade, trading away Pierre-Luc Dubois in the offseason, but tough to see their number one defenseman down before the season even starts.
Yeah, Mike, we had a bad 12 hours here because they lost Doughty on a really fluke injury. I thought he might have badly injured his knee, and instead it was his ankle. But it is a fracture, and they're talking 10 weeks, and that's a blow because he's the cornerstone of everything they do defensively. And it's a setback because the Kings have to win. The Kings have to win. They have so much money tied up, and so many veteran players are compiling a lot of mileage on them. And now you're gonna have to go a couple months without Drew Doughty. That's really tough. And then if that wasn't enough, John Gibson, the Ducks starting goaltender, has just gone into the hospital appendectomy, and he's going to be gone a month and a half. And this is a Ducks team that desperately needs quality goaltending because they're so young in front of them. So, we're a week away from the start of the NHL season. And boy, we had a bad dose of news over a 12-hour span here in Southern California.
Yeah, looking ahead to NFL Week 4, kicked off yesterday. Dallas getting the win over the Giants, but a number of pretty good games. I don't know if there's one that stands out to you. Is it Bills, Ravens? I know a lot of people here. Vikings, Packers. Eagles looking for redemption against the Buccaneers, and I think the Seattle-Detroit game could be pretty good too. So I don't know if there's a couple, one or two that stand out to you.
Well, you threw a blanket over all of them. Let's just run through it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City plays the Chargers here, and the Chargers are in a world of hurt despite the fact Jim Harbaugh's electricity has really infiltrated the team. I don't think they should play Justin Herbert on Sunday. He has now had 2 ankle injuries. I would rather sit him, and they have a bye week after the Chief game. Sit him, and then you have 13 games left to play. Don't get him hurt again. On top of that, they've lost both of their offensive tackles. Both bookend tackles are out with significant injuries, and they don't have the top pass rusher in Joey Bosa. So the Chargers, with all the enthusiasm, man, they got pounded last week in Pittsburgh, and they got more guys on the injured list than you can believe. Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, he's 8-2 against the Bolts. Patrick Mahomes is 95-22 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Think about that number. So Kansas City rolls in here, even though this is not the Kansas City team we've seen in the past. Buffalo, Baltimore, fascinating. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, between them, 1,300 all-purpose yards in 3 weeks of the season. Josh Allen is really rolling, and nobody's talking about the Bills' defense. They're giving up only 286 yards per game. So this Baltimore-Buffalo game is going to be a doozy. Across the border from you got Green Bay, which is just rolling with both their quarterbacks, Jordan Love and then Malik Willis, and they got to face Minnesota. Who could have thought Sam Darnold would have the Vikings at 3-0? Minnesota's playing really good football. I'll be intrigued to see which quarterback Green Bay starts. Philadelphia, Tampa, Jalen Hurts and those guys are averaging 411 yards per game, but the only glitch is Philadelphia's turned it over 6 times already this season, and there's no Eagle pass rush. And they've drafted all these players on defense, 3 drafts in a row. I don't quite know where that's gone. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield's making a lot of plays down the field. He's taking a lot of sacks. He's taken 13 sacks in the first 3 weeks of the season. Washington, Arizona. This is going to be fun. Kyler Murray is kind of reborn in Arizona now that he's got Marvin Harrison as wide receiver, plus the heavy-duty running back James Conner. Washington, you look at their roster on paper, say they don't have a lot of talent, but what they do have is Jaden Daniels. That kid has a 111 quarterback rating through the first 3 weeks of the season, has not turned the football over. Now, that being said, he's scrambling a lot. He's running a lot of stuff out of the RPO. Quarterbacks who run eventually get hurt. So I hope they'll make him more of a pocket passer there. You mentioned Seattle, Detroit. Geno Smith's got the Seahawks, and they're cooking on offense, and they go into Detroit and meet a Lions team that's sometimes good, sometimes bad. Detroit's a little chopped up defensively with injuries. And a fascinating game, Cleveland and the Raiders. And the Raiders just announced in the last 15 minutes they have lost Devontae Adams, and they've lost one of their other tight ends. They're all of a sudden in a world of hurt, and they're going to play a Browns team, and Deshaun Watson just looks miserable. He looks nothing like the quarterback who used to be with the Houston Texans. And they got $230 million committed to him, guaranteed on the contract. He's only completing 57% of his passes. So something's going to break. Either Cleveland's going to break down or the Raiders are going to utterly collapse because of the injury. So, yeah, you threw a blanket out there. There's a lot of good games in the NFL this weekend.
Well, Lee, I know you're going to be talking about all of them in more detail on your podcast here on YouTube, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Link in the description, and we'll send everyone over there when we're done. Thanks so much for bringing it here on a Friday, Lee.
Mikey, good to talk to you as a pinch hitter. Don't hit 226. We'll catch you next Friday on the Notebook segment.
Thanks so much. There he is, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, also doing great work on Instagram, leehacksawhamilton.com. He's everywhere, but he'll be on YouTube after us. I'm going to bring in Connor back, and we're going to open the marble race pretty soon. But first, here's Huss.
First up, though, a big cheers to our friends over at Little Brown Jug.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones. The ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
All right. Hey, I got to shout out our pals over at Royal Sports who are ready for hockey season. Listen, Royal is the hockey superstore in town, and no matter the age or the level of the hockey player in your family, you can knock off the entire list with one stop at Royal Sports. Everything from goalie equipment, protective equipment, a massive stick selection, helmets, all the way to stick tape and skate sharpening. Royal Sports has been the hockey superstore in town for over 40 years at 750 Pembina Highway. And while you're there getting ready to drop the puck, check out their incredible section of Winnipeg Jets and NHL merchandise, bomber gear for the push to the playoffs, and, of course, all the new NFL merchandise coming in right now as the 4-down game is well underway. Royal Sports, Winnipeg's hockey and sports superstore, family-owned for over 40 years, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And, hey, nice to have a little doubleheader at Boston Pizza last night for Monday Night Football. We've got another doubleheader coming up on Monday, but whether it's Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, or a full day of Sundays, Boston Pizza is your NFL headquarters. Pop in for the game and get your chance to win an exclusive trip to Vegas for Super Bowl weekend, along with NFL jerseys, NFL and Boston Pizza swag, and much, much more. And hey, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And listen, Jets back in action on Wednesday for preseason action. Their final preseason game will be on the 2nd of October. And as I mentioned to you before, we are very close to launching the WST ticket pack and ticket opportunities for this year. We're going to add some flexibility in it. We're going to have a game of the month. We're going to get the crew together 6 times this year. And it looks like that first game is going to be the 20th of October against you-know-who and the Pittsburgh Penguins. So stay tuned. By the end of this week or early next week, we'll roll it out. You'll have the opportunity to go on the link to reserve your seats and join us for some more great times with the Winnipeg Sports Talk crew at Canada Life Center watching the Winnipeg Jets.
There's us back Monday. He's at the President's Cup in Montreal, where the Americans got out to a huge lead yesterday, but roaring back is Team International with 1 win, and they lead in 3 others, tied in another match as well. So pretty interesting stuff. Big crowds coming out here on a Friday. So Hustler, he'll tell us all about it next week starting Tuesday, as there is no show on Monday. Hey, if you're here, the marble race is open. ! Marbles in the chat if you want to get in. I know people get itchy trigger fingers before 2:45, but 2:45 I do open it. We already have 96 people entered, and if you are entering, please take the time, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. Tells YouTube, hey, we're putting out some good content, and you won't miss any other stuff that we put out if you turn on that notification bell, because we do have some stuff coming up this weekend, including WST Sunday Live with Connor Hrabchak, who's about to hop in. And I will also note to sign up for our newsletter as well. I'll put it in the chat. It's in the description or on the bottom of our website, winnipegsportstalk.com. We'll notify you about events, the WST ticket pack. We hope to have that coming out very, very soon. Details worked out on that. And we don't have the ticket pack yet, but we do have an exclusive offer for listeners for the home opener on October 11th, Winnipeg Jets, Chicago Blackhawks. The link to that in the description of this video. Connor, WST Sunday Live, episode 2. Hey, tell the people, what are they going to get on Sunday at 9 a.m. here on this channel?
Well, it's an hour or more, depending on how long we want to go. Huss made the great point last week that we don't have to stop if we don't want to. That's the beauty of the internet. But lots of Jets talk about the game on Wednesday, the game from tonight. You heard Scott Arneil say that there might be cuts this weekend. So if there are, we will cover that on the show as well. Sunday at 9 a.m. every single Sunday throughout the Jets season, 9 a.m. We're super excited to start the show. We had a lot of people come through last weekend, hit the like. The views were up on the video. People enjoyed it. So come join us this Sunday, 9 a.m., an hour full of Jets talk. We'll cover everything. We'll get Jacob and Lissa's thoughts on the Perfetti contract too, because they haven't spoken to that yet. That happened Monday last week. So lots to talk about, few preseason games, maybe some roster cuts as well. I hope to see everyone there Sunday at 9.
Yeah, everyone's got to weigh in on the Perfetti contract. That was the big story of the week. Or maybe Brad Lambert's going to be the big story of the week if he's got a performance tonight, or Cole Perfetti. We'll see what he does in his first game back. But time to get cool bet lines. The Bombers, 5-point favorite at home against Edmonton. Bombers on a 6-game win streak, 5 wins in a row at home. I'm leaning towards the Bombers, but I may have some bias. I'm in the EST pick'em pool. I'm third. I think Hustler is second. I think I'm leaning Bombers. Not sure how you're feeling about this one tonight.
Yeah, I definitely think the Bombers are going to win. The spread being 5 points is interesting. I will say it's really funny. I'm looking over here at the anytime touchdown scorers. Scores his first and second touchdowns of the year last week, and all of a sudden Brady Oliveira's minus 170 to do it again. I guess that's life without Chris Streveler. He's the guy that's gonna get those touches in the money zone within the 10-yard line, 5-yard line. So I found that really interesting. But the 5-point spread, I don't know. I don't know how the Elks are gonna look with Bethel Thompson. I'm confident the Bombers winning, as they've won the last 6 games and they're at home. Chance to clinch a playoff spot nice and early here. But yeah, that spread is pretty close.
Yeah, just looking at anytime touchdown scorer, Brady Oliveira, he's the biggest favorite, minus 167. And then Kenny Lawler down there plus 175. How about Lucky Whitehead at plus 350 to get into the end zone? I don't think we'll see any rushing ones from Zach Collaros. Looking at player passing yards, Collaros is over under 274.5. Didn't need to pass for too many in the win last week. And we do have receiving yards. Kenny Lawler at 55. What's Ontario Wilson? 59. He had a nice game last week. And Dembski for. I never know which Bomber receiver it's going to be. It seems like each week someone takes the role as the alpha dog.
That's why their lines are all within like 10 yards of one another. That's why, because you never know. Like Dembski could have 100 yards tonight. Lawler could have 100 yards and a touchdown. Ontario Wilson has been electric this year. He could have a big play and hit the over on that as well. So it's just, you never really know. And it's not like the backfield where Brady Oliveira is getting all the work. They can spread this ball around, and they often do. Zach Collaros does with the receiving group.
Yeah, we did see Carrick Wheatfall come back last week, and he's got some speed as well. Brady Oliveira, his rushing prop, 78.5, very high. And Justin Rankin, he had the big game last week. I don't know if it'll be as a big. Talk with Derek Taylor, saying that the run game with MBT under center a bit different than when it's Trey Ford. A couple other games on the CFL schedule this week. Lions, big favorites, -7. That's a big one against Hamilton. They need to win. Did not have a good game, coming off the bye at home. I do like BC, but that seems like a big number. Saskatchewan at home against Ottawa. It's Masoli at quarterback for Ottawa. And Toronto, home dogs hosting Montreal. That's a big one for them. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the three other games this weekend.
I just can't believe that MOP candidate Bo Levi Mitchell's a 7-point underdog. No, I'm kidding. I get why BC's a heavy favorite in that game. The other games are interesting to me. Saskatchewan being a more than 3-point favorite with their struggles recently is interesting, even though Mazzoli's starting. And then I thought Montreal, they're 11-2. They're the best team in the CFL. They have been since week 1 of the season. It's interesting that they're not a bigger favorite, but then again, this is the CFL, and I would not be shocked if Toronto came out and won that game, just because things happen in the CFL. So it's really interesting, and to see where the markets are at on these teams is interesting as we wind down into the playoff portion of the season.
Hey, Grey Cup odds, the Bombers plus 325. I haven't looked at that too much over the years, so I don't remember what they were when they were like 0-4. Montreal's been the favorite all season. Kind of surprised BC plus 300 when they're not even in first. I think it's probably Montreal the favorite in the East. You never know. Maybe it could be Toronto getting in there. They did lay a huge egg in the playoffs last year. Most outstanding player, we've talked about it. It's so up in the air. I mean, Bo Levi Mitchell at 20-1 seems like not a bad bet. I don't think it's going to be Fajardo. He doesn't have the numbers. Brady Oliveira, I think, could be interesting, 14-1. And then some major long shots. Roland Milligan is getting some steam. I don't know. We'll see what it's going to be about the last 4 weeks here, I think.
Yeah, it's just such a crapshoot. And honestly, the worst bet on the board, it's the chalk bet because it's so wide open. Like Fajardo at minus almost 300. Like if he has a bad game this week against Toronto and Brady has another 2 touchdowns and 100 yards, then the conversation is a lot more legit. So I don't like the Fajardo, and I like taking kind of the wide open board. I find it hilarious that both BC quarterbacks are second and third, or tied for second in the MOP odds, and you can only start one quarterback every week, but they're both up there. And yeah, there are some long shots that could get interesting here because it's so wide open down the stretch.
Yeah, and so moving on to NFL Sunday, your 49ers, they are in action hosting the Patriots, big 10.5-point favorites. But the news this week, Christian McCaffrey goes to Germany to get his ankle looked at, and it seems like he's going to be out a while. Sign. Seems like he's going to be out for a while. Yeah, good sign.
It's always
right?
a good sign when you travel to Germany to see a specialist for your Achilles, right? No, I saw that John Lynch spoke to the media, the general manager of the 49ers, and he said that it went well and they're going to start ramping him up soon. Again, I've kind of just mentally blocked it out and said like maybe he'll be back for the playoffs at this point because all the news we've heard has been negative. But if he's able to come back earlier than that, great. Jordan Mason has been fun. Hope you picked him up in fantasy. And yeah, the 49ers should beat the Patriots, almost 11-point favorites at home. So hopefully they do. But a lot of interesting games like you and Lee talked about on this slate.
Yeah, I know. I think we need to put a class action lawsuit against the 49ers for, from all fantasy players for being so secretive. Everyone took McCaffrey number one, and they screwed everyone. They didn't disclose the injury. A bunch of fraudsters, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Games of the week, Ravens, Bills. That the Sunday nighter? That's going to be a good one, you think. A lot of points scored there. Titans, Dolphins. Thankfully, there's 2 Monday night games, and we don't have to watch that one where the quarterbacks are going to be Will Levis versus Tyler Huntley. Seahawks, Lions, that's a Monday nighter. I think that's actually a pretty good game. As far as Sunday goes, the one with the highest total is Commanders, Cardinals. 2 running quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels and Kyler Murray. And the Eagles rebound. They may not have any receivers after A.J. Brown. What is he out? And Devontae Smith hurt. The Aaron Rodgers show continues. Jets favored by 8.5 against Denver. But how about for all the Vikings fans out there, Sam Darnold going up against, is it going to be Jordan Love? Is he getting the start? I haven't seen if it's official or not.
I haven't either, but my working theory all week has been that this was the game they were going to bring him back. This is a divisional game for them. He took like the warm-up last week, Jordan Love did, and then they ruled him out. Like he was questionable. So I think I haven't looked either, whether or not he's been ruled in or out or is questionable or what the case is. But I think Vegas thinks that the Packers are going to be playing Jordan Love because you would not see them as a favorite if Malik Willis was the starter. So that's where I'm leaning. I think Love's going to play, and it's going to be a really good game between the top 2 teams in that division.
Yeah, the sneaky game here in the NFC South, Saints, Falcons. Saints, everyone thought they were going to have such a great game last week against the Eagles, and that was just awful to watch. Yeah. And has Andy Dalton saved the Panthers? Can he do it again against the Bengals, who just gave up a ton of yards to Jaden Daniels on Monday Night Football? So there's actually some good games. Maybe we're all waiting for Trevor Lawrence to show some signs of life with the Jaguars, but they couldn't stop Josh Allen at all on Monday, and now play as CJ Stroud. So I'll be tuned in on Sunday. Got the red zone. I'm a red zone guy. I don't know about you. What's your football Sunday setup like, Connor?
I'm a red zone guy as well, except for when the 49ers are on. Then I'll only watch the 49ers. Luckily, the 49ers, because they are on the West Coast, usually they play in the 3 o'clock slate. So I can sit and watch like the 9 games that are on the 12 o'clock slate on red zone. And then when there's like 3 or 4 games in the afternoon slate, I can just watch the one. And then I'll flip between, like if I have fantasy players or if there's an interesting game, I'll watch. But I don't know. Yeah, I think red zone is like taken over as the way to watch NFL Sunday. I think it's the majority of how people take in their games, unless you're watching your favorite team, of course.
Yeah, big red zone guy. My wife does not like red zone.
It's too much going on.
She likes, watching. We'll watch the Bomber games, and if there's like the prime time game, we can have it on. But she just wants to stick to one game. It's too hard to keep track if you're not having the fantasy interest. I don't know. I can see why red zone wouldn't be appealing, but oh well. Well, here we're at 3. We're at 3 o'clock. I'm gonna close the marbles, and I'll give a shout out. Yin Vivian says the WNBA semis start Sunday as well. I did see Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever get knocked out. Unfortunate. What a great rookie season she had, leading the league in a number of categories. So much hype. So we'll be paying attention to her second season and the rest of the WNBA playoffs as well. But here I'm closing the marbles. We got 198 entries, so I'm gonna close them. If you're in and you're still here, thumbs up, please. Tells you two we're putting out some good content. But we're got 199 entries. Seems like a good place. Close it. You guys had 15 15 minutes. I haven't even checked the tracks, Connor. We're gonna have to pick an old reliable.
Are there any additions, let's say, that you want to add into the list of people? Is there anyone?
Great question. Well, Bryan Little, people were saying
Bryan Little.
Marble.
Yeah.
Bryan Little.
You should get a marble.
He gets a marble. And Hustler. I'll give Hustler a marble.
All caps Hustler. Make sure it's all caps.
Yeah, he wants to be in all caps for sure.
Yeah.
Let me put those in. Andrew Haleko says he wants to be top 150. There are 199. Hustler, Bryan Little, and I'm saving the marbles. But Connor, I don't know if you have any I know you got big weekend plans coming up. It's early access, NHL 25. You're going to have to give us the big review, maybe show off some of those Jets ratings.
Big review. Yeah. Well, the NHL franchise has taken some heat, to say the absolute least, over the last couple years. But yeah, it came out today. I think the regular launch for the non-deluxe edition is next Friday. But yeah, we'll think of some NHL content to put on the WST channel. I know you're big into gaming, Remis. So
we've been talking about
we've
been talking about it for years. Getting the WST team in. I don't know, taking on Edmonton Sports Talk. I don't know. I used to play quite a bit. I think the game's taken a bit of a dive. My time, not what it used to be. So I didn't play a ton of 24. I'd like to get back into it, especially if it's for, work purposes. Work if we do a stream, maybe a live watch along, who knows, but you want to see that. We should try
and set that up. A WST versus ESHL
I
game
should message.
That would be fun.
Take on, I know Steve Dangle's got his own team.
Right.
So we'll have to see.
We'll be the best sports media NHL team. That'll be our goal for this upcoming NHL cycle.
I'll put out the challenge. Winnipeg Sports Talk wants to take on any media entity with the team in 2024-25. I like the 3-on-3, so if we can do that, that works for me.
And there's three of us. So
I'll have to get it. Rewicki would be in. I think he would play. He doesn't have a lot of time either. That's what happens, Connor, when you have kids. Right. Enjoy all your free time. Oh, Garrett's always says, I'm interested in NHL 25 content. There you go. Maybe there will.
Maybe I'll do a Jets franchise mode. Actually, I'm not going to promise that because gaming and recording that content seems very confusing to me, but maybe that's something I'd learn eventually.
Yeah, I'm not a big franchise guy. I know people are excited about franchise mode. I just play online against people. I don't have time. My joke was, I don't have time to play menus. I actually want to play the game.
Wow.
There's so much time just scrolling around a menu. That's not what I want to do. I want to play the game. So that was my
very fair. Very fair.
I did see, as I loaded the marbles, I got to do an update. TSN released their top 50 players list. Have you looked at it?
I have. I saw the Winnipeg Jets players that were on it. I didn't see, I glanced at the rest of the list. I saw that Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey, and Connor Hrabchak were the three Jets that were on the list. But I can't say that I have any hot takes or they got this one wrong. I don't know. Did you have any takeaways from it?
You're not going to give any big overreactions. Connor Hrabchak coming in at 22.
That's way too low. No, I'm kidding.
He's the top goalie, right? No, Shesterkin 17. He's a Vezina Trophy winner. What a joke. I'll overreact to that.
Yeah, me too.
And then where's Morrissey on here? Morrissey 44. Sure, I guess so. And then Kyle Connor 47. So that's the TSN top. Wyatt Johnson coming in at number 50. Wow, that guy's really skyrocketed.
Whoa, yeah. I will say, Josh Morrissey, I'd be interested to see where he was last year. I feel like he's a good litmus test for how many people actually, outside of the market. I know Jets fans know, but the year before he had the 76 points in 78 games. But I think everyone would agree that this past year was the overall better year, but he had less points. but he was way better defensively. Him and Dylan DeMello, I mean, how much stock do you put into plus minus? But their plus minus was insane. Jets were a better defensive team. So it's always like when people rate, when they're down on Josh Morrissey after the year he had versus up, it's always like a litmus test of like, okay, are they just box score watching, or are they actually looking at the fact that Josh Morrissey did have a better year despite having less points? And a lot of that had to do with the power play. So it'd be interesting to see where he was last year, if he moved up the list, down the list, or wasn't on it at all last year.
That's it. Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that. And I guess this is kind of useful if you're doing fantasy drafts. Maybe you want to see, I don't know, are you in any fantasy leagues, Connor?
I am. I want to be in more, though. I've heard rumblings of a WST fantasy hockey league. Maybe people want to get together and do something like that. Yeah.
We did have one last year, putting it together for this year. So the one thing about fantasy hockey is I feel like there's no format that's universal like fantasy football. You know, it's head to head. You have something called standard scoring. There's no standard scoring in fantasy hockey. So if someone has the best format, let me know. I'm in a league that's an auction league, which is fun, head to head. So I do like, and I do a WST box pool every year that I send out too. Nice. So I will have to, I'll have to make that again. But here, for sure, it's time for the marbles. This is my favorite part of the show, where I do the marbles. It's open, and then I close it, and then everyone's like, "Blake, get to the song," and we get to just talk about whatever topic, whatever comes up in this time. That's the best time of the week for me.
Exactly.
Anyways, I'll shut up and just play the song. Here. It's Friday! All right, I got to pick a track here. I have it open. 201 marbles officially in. Thank you to everyone who hit the button or hit the command ! marbles here. Let me bring on my own camera. Here we go. I don't know if anyone's got I haven't done the Marble Factory or the Factory 2. I think that's a good one, isn't that? I'm not sure. I think that was the one. I haven't really gone through them. Temple Steve, we did. The Funnel, we've done. Was Twisted Toothpick good? That's a shorter one. Twist and Turns. Let me just double check. I got a list of the ones that I like. Hoodies. Yeah, people have emailed me about the hoodies. Hustler's got that update. He's not here. Just keep reminding us. And Krugs, I see you in there. Haven't forgot. I did get an email from someone earlier this week who won last week as well. They are on their way. There are hoodies coming. We did not forget. I got Dojo. Oh yeah, the Factory 2. I haven't done Factory 2 for a while. Let me get it. I'll bring it out. 201 marbles for the WST hoodie. Where is the Factory 2? I don't see it. Is that not a thing anymore? I don't know. Okay, I'll pick a different one. Sorry. Anyone want to shout out their favorite map? I like the laboratory. I think that was a good one. The marble race, the best time of the week. I'm doing the laboratory. We got 201 marbles on a Friday. Let's go. Anyone who's going to the Bomber game tonight? If you are, put it in the chat. Looking forward to tonight's game against Edmonton. Connor, are you ready for the marbles here?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Where's the button? Oh, there it is. Okay, ready. Here we go. They're off. My favorite part, doing marble play-by-play. This is like a dream come true. Always wanted the chance. Oh, wait. Did I do that right? I don't know if I loaded them properly. Okay, wait. I'm going to do a reset. I'm doing a reset. Let me just make sure. Russlow, and he's going to the game. Dan, Jets fans going. Leslie's going. That was a false start. Here, let me redo it again. I just want to make sure I loaded the right name. Okay, I did. But I get paranoid with that. Okay, we're restarting it again. Who's going to the game? Jeff Bowes is going to the game. Ernie Thiessen's going. Manny Fran's going. Man, a lot of people going. Ken Reimer says, come on, man, I was in the lead. Ken 007 going. There's no controversy. Okay, wait. Let me do this again. Sorry. That was a false start. Okay. We're going to load the correct list. And then we're good. But yeah, it should be a great night. I can't believe September, like in shorts weather. Connor will be at the game.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's start now. They're off. Section 141. There is one more game. Tickets still left for that game. All right, Neil Paget's in the lead. K6000, Derek Schmidt, Mr. Hammerdance, all in there going down these slides into the finish line. Who will be the first out? It is Alex from the Peg and Derek Schmidt, neck and neck up this ladder. We are in the laboratory. 201 marbles are in. Only one will be the winner of the prized WST hoodie. Going through, it's like you're at the river trail where you go through those things hanging down. It's K in first. Chucker's in there. Jeff Doiron, Gin Intelligent. We got the hamster wheel coming up. It's K, healthy lead, Jeff Doiron. But K goes in there first. And Gintelligence, Bubba Jet. Everyone's in there. Someone's going to get it shut out, but they're other marbles thrown off the top. Running Man, Redwood, Farmer Brain, Jared Hill, not going to make the finish line. K, Brass Bonanza, Alex from the Peg, 1, 2, 3. And this twisty thing is going to knock him around. Will someone make it? Splandorf is out. There's K and Alex from the Peg. No one can get past this thing, but it's Bubba, Jet, and B. Henderson now in the lead. Oh my God. Someone said I was muted. I don't believe that I am. Don't rate the mute button. CFL 60 OG in there. And it is the CFL 60 OG. I got messed up. Terminator. I look away for 1 second and I missed it. And CFL 60 OG. That was a really terrible final call. That's what gets me for looking at the chat. Right, Connor?
The call. You living out your dream, calling marble race play-by-play, and just butchered it. Wow.
I just butchered that finish. I butchered that. Never gonna get called back. Terminator. Improv. That's a red card, Terminator. You can't rate the mute emoji when I'm not muted. Mess me up. But it was CFL 60 OG winning. I've seen them in here before. Missing Monk. Second, Brass Bonanza. Derek Schmidt in there. Bubba Jet, Hockey Lover. Uncle Dizzo, Ray, Warren Monroe, Todd Forteni. Hey, Eagle Eyes, how did you do in the poker tournament there? I saw you were the chip leader for a while, but it is the CFL 60 OG in first place. Let's do another. Yeah, Rob Mahoney says, do another for the perfect call. There, I did confirm there is no show Monday. No show Monday. All right, Connor, let's go through the list. Missing Monk, Brass Bonanza. We'll scroll down. We'll see where Hustler is. I didn't even see Hustler. I see Scott Westman, Amanda, previous winner. Gene Okerlund won last week. You Eagle Eyes finished second at 7th in the poker. Yeah, that goes fast near the end. Let's see. Wayne Gretzky. Oh, Wayne Gretzky gave me. I got to give a shout out to Wayne Gretzky here. He's putting on an event. Wanted me to mention it, and we'll get to that. Bridget Bardo in there. Al Broderick, Kevin Kowalik, Waiters 27, Jet Oil Tom, Jeremy Nickerson. Oh, there's Hustler in all caps, 75th. Bozeman. I don't know where Ross Ransby is for their side bets. Yin Vivian, always insightful in the chat. 88th. Tristan Rivers Music did the amazing theme song. Mary Jane, 90th. Kelsey Walsh. Bishop Boy Bruce. The Rob Pepper in all caps. There's Bryan Little, 110th. T. Will, 119th. Alex Howe. There we go. Going down all the way. Oh, there's Ross, 148th. Matt Hyman, 162nd, and Dave McLean, the last finisher, at 165. There we go. There's the list. There's all the marbles. Shout out to everyone who came in and participated. Thank you so much for that one. Connor, predictions. Will we see? I don't know if there was like a cool bet, lock shop, partner parlay. If you could have a Jets win and a Bombers win.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about the Jets, but I think the Bombers could certainly pull their end of the deal there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Bombers are going to come away with the win. The Jets, I'm a little bit less confident in, given the roster that Minnesota's bringing. But I will say, a lot of people in chat were saying, this game's sold out tonight. Your next chance to see the Bombers is October 11th. That is the last regular season home game, and it's also the home opener for the Winnipeg Jets that night against the Chicago Blackhawks. So it'll be a true doubleheader, and you can't go to one or the other. I mean, I guess you can if you want to miss half of each, but one game's at 7, or I believe both games start at 7 that night. Maybe the Bomber game starts at 7:30, but the Bombers and the Jets both playing a home game on that Friday, October 11th. So you got to choose, and then maybe, hopefully, we'll get to see the Bombers again at home for the West Final, or at least a home playoff game.
Man, the idea that there could be a West Final here, it is wild. Crazy, wild, considering how it started. There isn't it here. I told Wayne Gretzky I'd give him a shout out for his event this week at the Manitoba Loud Music Awards, Saturday at the Park Theater, headlined by Voivod, legendary Canadian metal band. I did see them open for Ozzy here in 2003. So if you're interested in loud music, Manitoba Loud Music Awards, a fan-nominated, fan-voted People's Choice Awards show like no other, representing metal, rock, punk, and hardcore music. That is Saturday. That's tomorrow at the Park Theater. Great lineup for that. Connor, thank you for your help all week. Great having on. Great, brought the insight. We had the Perfetti contract news. The Jets changing up their special teams. We'll see how that shakes out. 2 preseason games. Very exciting.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and I hope people turned on the notifications so they don't miss WST Sunday Live, 9 a.m. on Sunday. And then WST Weekly, of course, every single Monday morning. There won't be a show Monday, so I'll have everything covered from the weekend, the Jets preseason games, the Bomber games, and everything else happening sports-wise in the city of Winnipeg on Monday morning. Thanks for having me on, Remo.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem. Great work, Connor. Feeling a lot of pressure for this outro, but thank you everyone who came in and watched and liked and commented. I couldn't do this show without our sponsors. Here, let me give a shout out to Consolidated Supply, Rollies, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Wallace and Wallace, F Apparel, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Winnipeg Jets, Coolbet, Garage Living, the sponsor of CFL 110. So if you can't get enough of Winnipeg Sports Talk, check out CFL 110 on this channel or on podcast. And yes, the winner of the marble race, email winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. For Michael Remis and Hustler, who's not here, and Connor Hrabchak, as I'm trying to send everyone over to Hacksaw's channel. Hold on. I'm not quite winding it down yet. We're going to just set it up so everyone will go check out Hacksaw for more great NFL discussion. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, whether you're at the, watching the Jets game, streaming at winnipegjets.com, taking in the Bomber game, watching it, having multiple TVs out. Either way, hope everyone has a great weekend. We will see you, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. on this channel for WST Sunday Live, and then here again Tuesday. Thanks again, everyone. Bye-bye.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.